Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Councilmember Faber, would you lead us in the pledge? This week, Council is appreciative to have Pastor Bismarck Osei Okome from Jesus Power Assembly of God here to pray with us. Pastor, welcome to Council. As the pastor comes forward, I want to take this moment and ask for a moment of silence before the pastor prays for us. This community lost a huge giant, a quiet giant this past week, and the loss of Dr. Otha Gilliard. Dr. Gilliard served this community, Shiloh Baptist Church, for more than 29 years, and his impact spans far and wide. We keep Ms. Frida Gilliard and the parishioners at Shiloh Baptist Church in our prayers as they mourn the loss of their leader and our community leader. May I have a moment of silence? Thank you, Pastor.
Good evening to you, honorable council members. Thank you very much, Council President, Honorable Sharon Harding. It is a privilege to stand before wonderful council members to lead a prayers. It is written in Psalm 33, verse 12 to 15. The Bible said, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people who have chosen as his own inheritance. The Lord looked from heaven, and you see all the sons of men from the place of his dwelling. He looked on all the inhabitants of the earth. He fashioned their heart individually, and he considered all their works." Can we please bow our head for a prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening gathering. We thank you for giving us such a nation like the United States of America. We pray and commit the City Council meeting into your hands. I pray for wisdom and knowledge and understanding. I pray for the President and all the council members that your presence will come and preside over this gathering. We pray for wisdom and knowledge for them as they go into this business. I pray that you help everyone to give all their best to understanding and to humble themselves for this gathering. I pray that, Lord, you preside over it and be a blessing. We open the gathering in the name of our Son, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of City Council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing no additions or corrections, the journal is approved. This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
None at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to talk about an event that happened this weekend. First, I think it's important to acknowledge how upsetting it is to see a terrorist group bust in white supremacists to try to intimidate families with children. We've all got to continue to speak out against hate, division, and fear, regardless of where it comes from. I'm sad that families were not able to enjoy the event that was planned. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about this, and I want to be perfectly clear about this situation. Multiple council members, including myself, reached out to CPD in the weeks ahead of this event. CPD was aware of this event and was in constant communication with the organizers. I talked to the mayor about this, and many council members talked to the police department ahead of time. I know of multiple meetings between organizers and the city, as well as countless phone calls that occurred in the days and weeks leading up to this past Saturday. Columbus Police and Homeland Security were on site on Saturday, and those are the facts. And we respect all of the organizers involved and cannot imagine the immense pressure that they were under to make sure that they were able to host this event safely. But we also respected their original request that police remain outside the facility. It says in my talking points that I hope that we are able to hold similar events safely in the future. We'll go stronger than that. We will hold safe events in the community for all of our community members. At the end of the day, it is not about the confusion. It is about fascists who are trying to come into our city to intimidate children and families with guns. That's why we've all got to be vigilant and make clear that racists and Nazis are not welcome in this city. And again, let me just say that we can all do better. We want to make sure that safety is a feeling. Safety is a feeling, and if members of our community did not feel safe, we have to do better. But I will say that this council, this city, our division of police and their leadership were there and were stood ready and did protect our community. I just wanted to make sure that we knew that, because the last thing that we could allow to happen are folks to not know how welcoming, how caring, how safe of a community we actually are. So I just wanted to make that point. With that, we'll go around the dais, starting with Councilmember Bankston.
Thank you, President Harden. Just one resolution this evening, and I'm really excited to present. So as I'm introducing it, I'm going to have Coach Bell and the East High School football team to come up to the podium at this time. Y'all come on up. I got the whole team here today. I am really excited to introduce Resolution 0253X-2022 to congratulate and recognize the East High School football team for a successful season. Council colleagues, the gentlemen before you tonight have just come off a historic season for the city and for their school. They ended this season with a record of 10-2, averaged 40 points per game, qualified for their first state playoffs since 1999, and made it all the way to the Division IV regional semifinals, which is the furthest East High School has gone in East High School history. Let me say that again. This is the furthest they have gone in East High School history. And although they have all these athletic accolades, what I'm most proud of is that additionally, more than half of the members of the team have been acknowledged as scholar athletes, showcasing their dedication not just to their work on the field, but their work in the classroom. So with us tonight, we have our head coach, our principal, and the captain of the team are going to say a few words. So Coach Bell, if you could turn around and give us a few words, or whichever order you want to go in.
You want to go first? First off, I want to thank everyone here for having us here. We're truly excited, and we definitely appreciate the support that the Columbus City has gotten behind us this year. East is a traditional school, a lot of legacy there at East High School. And I tell these young men, when you step onto the field and you walk out into this community, you represent East High. We have 100 years of alumni there. 100 years. It's a lot of people that have come through that building. It's a lot of great people who have come through that building. And I'm so proud of these young men because they are representing them well. And they're doing the right things in the classroom as well as on the field. We have a motto that we work on about being resilient. And we work on developing resilience. And I tell our kids that some of us are not born with the silver spoon. And some of our hand is dealt a little bit differently. But it's all about how you respond to it and the positive outlook that you have moving forward. And if you can believe in yourself, you can have a great experience right here at a city high school, right here in the inner city. You can accomplish everything that you want. I told Mr. Bankston that he's a graduate from East High School, a graduate from East High School. And he is representing East High School well, and it's plain sight for them, these kids, to see that. The exposure today, the exposure to be here, it's just something that they will always remember. And super proud of these young men. And my principal, Dr. Watson, I'd like to thank him, my athletic director, Mr. Brown, my staff. We have a great staff here that work with these young men daily. And I just want you to know that we're trying to provide the best program for these kids. And we're doing it, and they're buying in. And there are a lot of young black males that are doing wonderful things out here. And let's give them a round of applause.
Good evening. On behalf of the East High family, past, current, and future, we want to say thank you for recognizing our young men and their efforts this year.
QB1.
I want to say thank you to everybody for having the team here. We really appreciate it. Glad to see that someone seeing the hard work that we put in the whole summer and the whole season. And it wasn't easy to get this far. And I want to say thank you to my teammates for pushing through this whole season, through the trials and tribulations that we've been through together. It's been crazy, but we have been able to find something good out of it and turn it positive for the community and for the city of Columbus. Thank you.
And stay up there, Coach, so I can make sure I get you the resolution. Before I move for adoption, I just want to say, everybody up here knows that I'm an East High Tiger through and through. I rep it hard. I bleed orange and black, but I'm so proud of you guys. I said it back there and I say it out here. What you accomplished was not a failure. It was such a success. You put this city on your back and you took us to the state semifinals. That is to be commended. And as I said to you all back there, to my seniors, to this community, next year we're going to the state championship. And it's going to take a community effort. So my seniors, I need y'all coming back, what did I say, in the summer, getting with your brothers. I need y'all now in the off season to be thinking about next season. The decisions and choices that you make are going to determine how successful our season is next year. But more importantly, continue to do what you're doing in the classroom, because this is just nothing but a vehicle for you to get to your other dreams and accomplishments. I talked to so many of these young men. Literally, I think half the senior class that's going to college said they wanted to go into school for engineering, right? That is not an easy feat. So make sure that you continue to do what you're doing on the field, but excel in the classroom and know that I got your back, the city has your back, this council has your back. Now, two of them up here, they didn't go to East High School, but we ain't gonna talk about that. But no, I'm so proud of you all. Before I move for adoption, are there any comments from my colleagues? All right. And with that, Council President, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Stenderos, Adi Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted. Nick, stay out here, council member. Council member was the drum major for East High School, so I thought you should show him something. Congratulations, guys.
All right, fellas, East High on 3. 1, 2, 3.
East High!
It's too loud for me. That is all I have this evening, Council President.
Thank you, council member. Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. Press Pro Tem. Councilmember Dorrance.
Not going to try and top that. Just a quick announcement. I'll be hosting a joint hearing this week to review the proposed 2023 operating budgets for the Department of Public Utilities and the Department of Building and Zoning Services this Wednesday, December 7th, here in council chambers at 5 o'clock. If folks want to sign up to testify on those budgets, they can contact my office, and we will be here at 5 o'clock on Wednesday for those budget hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see another Tiger out there and former council member and County Commissioner Kevin Boyce is here. Please recognize County Commissioner Kevin Boyce. Councilmember Favor.
Well, I definitely cannot top any of that, so I'm just going to awkwardly transition into measles. So, yes, tonight we have a very important PSA that we would like to make, and I'm going to ask Assistant Health Commissioner Edward Johnson to give us an update on measles in our community.
Thank you, Chair Favor, and thank you, members of council. Unfortunately, we have the somber duty to report that currently Columbus Public Health is investigating 56 cases of measles in our community, and that is since October 31st. This is important because measles is one of the most contagious diseases that we've experienced in public health, so much so that we know 90% of unvaccinated individuals that encounter a contagious individual will themselves contract measles. So of those 56 cases, we have had 20 hospitalizations in the jurisdiction. None of our 56 cases have completed a full course of the MMR vaccine, which we think speaks to the effectiveness of taking the MMR vaccine. And unfortunately, 51 of those 56 cases have been under the age of 5. We know that there have been 4 exposure sites, all of which can be seen on Columbus Public Health's website. If you've been to one of those sites, we encourage you to monitor for symptoms, which include fever, runny nose, cough, rash, and red eyes for up to 14 days after exposure. Measles is a virus that can linger in the air and on surfaces, so we do encourage vigilance from the general public. Thank you, Councilmember.
And if anyone is interested in getting vaccinated against measles, where could they go?
Absolutely. Columbus Public Health and its immunization clinic does have MMR vaccine available for children and for adults. Additionally, if you have questions, we do always encourage folks to either reach out to us at the health department or to contact your primary care provider.
Thank you very much. And then just 2 quick announcements. This Wednesday, December 7th, we have the Riverside CRA public hearing at 6 p.m. and council. This will be an opportunity to discuss the creation of the Riverside Community Reinvestment Area. Residents interested in providing testimony must email aaliban@columbus.gov with the subject Riverside CRA hearing by noon on the day of the hearing. All written testimony must be submitted to the same email by 3 p.m. the day of the hearing. And last but certainly not least, on Thursday, December 8th, I will be hosting our Housing, Criminal Justice, and Judiciary and Health and Human Services Committee's 2023 Operating Budget Public Hearing at 5 p.m. in council chambers. Once again, residents interested in providing testimony must email Anissa Lieben at aaliban@columbus.gov with the subject 2023 operating budget by noon on the day of the hearing, and all written testimony must be submitted to the same email by 3 p.m. the day of the hearing. Thank you, Council President.
Thanks, Councilmember Favor. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you, Council President. I have a few announcements this evening. Tomorrow, Thursday, December 6th, I will host the second public hearing over proposed mobile food vending code amendments. This hearing will start at 4:30 in council chambers. We will hear a presentation over the proposed amendments from the Division of Support Services in the Public Safety Department and take public testimony. Please reach out to Lucy Frank at ljfrank@columbus.gov by noon on Tuesday to sign up to speak. On Wednesday, December 7th, I will host a joint 2023 operating budget public hearing over the Administration, Environment, and Public Safety Committees. This hearing will start at 3 p.m. in council chambers. Again, please reach out to my legislative aide, Lucy Frank at ljfrank@columbus.gov by noon on Wednesday to sign up to speak. And this weekend, please join me on Saturday, December 10th between 9 and 3 at NBC4's Firefighter for Kids Toy Drive, where we will be helping to collect new unwrapped toys, gift cards, and monetary donations to help make the holiday season special for local children. The donation drive will occur at CAS at 2540 Olentangy River Road. I'll be there with Cleaner Columbus's Scarlett, the litter cardinal, and hope to see you there as well. Council President, that is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. I have two resolutions tonight. They're both very special, but I will start with, as I read Resolution 0231X-2022, I would like to invite P.D. Brown and the rest of the team up to the podium. Welcome to council. I want to thank them for coming down tonight. So we're really excited about this resolution. That we were able to make this happen. This is to celebrate the first historical marker recognizing the LGBTQ community here in Columbus. And I can say for myself, it's long overdue. I'm proud that we can highlight a history that has been hidden for way too long. And the truth is, it's because of advocates that we're able to tell this story and have this historical marker for generations to come. That this space was a safe space specifically for lesbian women to come together, when far too long that it was dominated by men, the community, and the spaces were for the community. This space was special, is special. And we're so excited to PD, the owner, that for this designation, the support of the community coming to see and to show. Like I said, it's long time overdue. So I am so excited about the resolution, so excited about the historical significance of recognizing Summit Bar. It's historically significant. It's telling the story of our community, that we are that welcoming space. So I'd like to turn the podium over to, I don't know if Petey or who would like to speak, but I'd like to turn it over to you to help us tell the story, to fill in the gray areas about the amazing history of the Summit Station Bar. Welcome to council.
Thank you so much. And we're very grateful. So many changes have been made in this city in the last 40 years. And I can't help but be proud of Columbus, Ohio, because you have made changes. And it is getting much better, but we still got a little ways to go.
Yes.
But my bar was hopefully a safe place for thousands of women who went through those doors over 40 years. Oh, not quite, almost. And they were great. The clientele was great. And the boys would come in occasionally, especially when we had our Christmas show. The Tremont always sent a group in and they did a number. But it was the generosity of these girls that raised so much money over the years, benefits for all kinds of things. I think we had more benefits than anything else. And it was beautiful to watch my community give and have a place where they can give, where they know where the money's going. And it was terrific. It was a great experience. Kind of glad it's over. It was a job, but I had a lot of help. All my customers and performers of all kinds, and very good ones. And was it Ronald Coleman that used to be here? Michael Coleman? When he was first running to be on city council, he come into my pub and he had girls listen to him good. And he was very happy, so just thought I'd mention it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And you all were great, and you have my respect all the way around. And thank you all as well. And these two have some good stuff to say. Hopefully.
I'll just take a second to say that this has been a dream of mine for over 35 years. I am passionate about history and I am passionate about Ohio, and I cannot stand it when people set us up as we just run around tipping over cows and that nothing, I mean, we laugh about it, but the truth of the matter is that oftentimes we are the butt of a lot of jokes. When nothing, in my mind, everything in my mind is connected to Ohio because we are the heart of it all. And so for us, and that sometimes our progressiveness gets overlooked. And this, when, I am from the river, I'm from Zanesville, Ohio. I didn't know that there was a place that would accept a person like me. And this woman doesn't have any idea of what she really did for this community and how many lives she saved in this community. And I will leave with the tidbit that the FACES unit at Children's Hospital happened largely in part of the support of the Christmas show. And that it was the lesbian women in that bar who raised monies, who made quilts, who volunteered for the AIDS unit at OSU when no one else would, to take care of this community. And that was all because Peter Brown said, what did the people need? And would be like, come on in and do it. And so, like, really, I can't say enough about her and what Summit was for this community.
Thank you.
Stop it louder.
I'll just add, as the third person to come along to Summit Station after these two, they taught me the importance of history. I'm also from Ohio, from an Appalachian community, and coming to Columbus was something that saved my life, and I never expected to stay here longer than 6 months, and it's been 20 plus years, and it's because of Summit Station, Lester Singleton, the magic that happened at that bar, and the ripple effect goes on across so many generations. So we're very thankful to City Council for recognizing this historical significance of the bar, and the Ohio History Connection for their support and helping us do the work to get a monument outside of the space so that publicly people will know the important things that happened there. Because if we don't tell our history, no one else will. So thank you for your support.
Right. Congratulations. Are there any comments from my colleagues? See none, then I'll make a motion for Resolution 0231. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
And certainly, I'll give a second.
Sorry.
Last, but certainly not least, from the floor, I'm introducing a resolution to honor our friend, our colleague, our leader, President Pro Tem. It has been widely reported that President Pro Tem will leave council at the end of this year to advance such important work as the next CEO of the YWCA. Let's recognize President Pro Tem Liz Brown. And as I open this portion up, I would like to there are so many family members here. If you're interested in coming up to the podium, we would invite the family to come up and certainly say something to represent Pres Pro Tem. We all say this, individuals don't serve, families serve. And so as we honor her work, we're also honoring the commitment and the sacrifices and the service of her family. And so, like I said, I have Resolution 0245X-2022 is to recognize and celebrate the work of President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown and congratulate her on becoming President and CEO of YWCA Columbus. We are so grateful as a council for Liz's service to our city. She fought for paid family leave and she won. She fought for transparency on our budgeting process, and she won. She has never stopped fighting for families, for workers, for our community, and Russell is grateful. I call him my main man. This is just one of the many reasons why I truly love and appreciate Pres Pro Tem's leadership. I remember when we were running for this job, her ability to juggle this. But this is what so Carolyn was born very close to our election to council in 2015. So close that I think it was 3 days, or was it 5 days, 4 days after she was born, we had our last debate. No one expected, of course, she just had a child, the council member, the candidate to come. She came, she won the debate that night, 4 days after giving birth to Caroline. That's the woman that Pres Pro Tem is, Elizabeth Brown. It's absolutely crazy. We're so proud, we're so grateful for your service, Liz. It's been an honor to serve with you. Thank you for all that you've done for this community. You have been an amazing representative, a role model for women and men, for young girls and young boys around service to our city. We're so grateful. Before I ask you to speak and ask folks to speak, I want to open it up to my colleagues. Councilmember.
Well, I don't want to belabor the thank yous, but just echo a thank you, both professionally and how you have helped guide me through my career, but also personally for your friendship. It means a lot. When we had our first little one, you were right there and brought over a casserole, which I still owe you the dish, by the way. I promise I'll get it back to you. But it's just, I think it's just, working with you has truly been an honor. And to see the work that you're going to do at the YWCA, I'm really excited to partner with you there and continue our friendship and for me to continue to lean on you in those times. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
I mean, we should just go around. That's right, okay. So Liz, this is bittersweet because I've wanted to serve with you for a long time. For folks who don't know, Liz and I actually were City AmeriCorps members, and so I feel like we've always bonded over that. And I know we have some other AmeriCorps members actually in the room, but that sense of service is something, and that perspective is something that you've been able to bring to your work here. And I know that it is not easy to be a woman. It is not easy to be a strong woman. It is definitely not easy to be a woman who is opinionated, who speaks and stands up for things, who breaks down barriers, who can bring their children into spaces because we are mothers, and you can bring your whole identity to every space that you're in. And I know that you took a lot of hits for a lot of people for that. But the good thing was that you tore down a lot of notions about what it means to be a working mother, about what it means to have a family, about what it means to have work-life balance, and improving the lives of women and children. And we say this all the time, that an investment in women is an investment in community. And I can think of no greater investor in our community than you. And it's been such a pleasure to serve alongside of you, even if it was for a short time. And we say this when people leave, we want you to relax. I want you to keep working. I want you to keep mentoring. I want you to keep breaking down barriers and to continue to be a role model to everyone in our community for the work that you do. So I just want to say thank you. I'm excited because this means we get to partner more together, and this means that we get to do more exciting things together. Women's Caucus 2022 forever. thank you again for leading the way.
Thank you. Just like that, Maribel's starting to steal the show, rightfully so. Liz, I've been trying to write down comments all week about this, and I keep getting back to that puppy dog look that we've been talking about this last week of me being so excited for you and your family for your new role at the YWCA, but as a body, how disappointed I am just to see you leave. It's no secret we've worked so well together in council on so many different things, and you were the person that I aspire to be like when you think about being a policymaker. You ask the right questions, you ask the right questions of the right people, and you ask a lot of everyone around you in the way in which they're included, and that's a rare quality for folks to be able to have. So when I think about what I try and do every day, it's how would Liz sort of approach these kinds of problems? And you have been an incredible, it's funny because we've known each other for a really long time. We started working in politics together at the same time, but it's weird to think of someone like that as a mentor, and you have been that for me since day one. And lastly, you've changed the city in a number of ways. I think we've read so many of these accomplishments you have, but you've changed this body. When we think about, I think everything that Councilmember Barosa de Padilla just said about normalizing having a kid with you at a budget hearing, I mean, this is something that I think all of us are sort of doing right now. We're walking through the steps that you allowed for us to do that. And I think you've really challenged this body and really sort of made us be more external to the community at all times as well. When we think about the budget process, getting out in the community and talking through with members of the community about what that actually means, that's because of you. That's why we do that. And that's something that's going to outlive, your time here. That's going to be the way that we operate as an institution moving forward. So, on behalf of the residents of Columbus, thank you for your time and for your service. And thanks to the family for allowing Liz to be here with us. As President Hardin said, it takes the whole family to make this happen, and all folks here to make that happen. So at this point, I'm just rambling and going to put my puppy dog face back on and say congratulations, Liz.
I'd like to know what the puppy dog face is. It's a good call. Liz. No. And she does not care. She is a fighter like her mother. So you have been relentless in your fight for families and unapologetic on your effort to fight on behalf of women, young girls, and those who identify as women. And so whether we are talking about reproductive rights or ensuring that there are feminine products in our schools, you have been at the forefront of that fight. So we chuckle, the three of us, anytime we mention the Women's Caucus. And shout out to our former Women's Caucus member, Priscilla Tyson, was here earlier today. But it's also in an effort for me to raise the platform, to raise awareness to the issues that are impacting women and young girls and those who identify as such in our community. So it's never lost on me that there was a time when the three of us could not vote, right? Let alone sit on this dais. So when I tell you that the work that you have done over the years speaks well beyond your years and will truly leave a mark on this city, I absolutely mean that. It's the reality that there are folks that are looking at this dais and it's more than just black and white diversity. And you bring that. I'm new to politics and I have watched you this entire time. You never know who's watching you, right? But I've watched you this entire time. And I will often call you and ask you, and you probably never even thought about it, because I truly do value your opinion, your voice. And so, like Lourdes, I'm saddened. It's a bittersweet moment because I was really ready to get some Women's Caucus t-shirts made, right? I was ready to plow this thing ahead. But the reality is that I wholeheartedly believe that our work is just getting started. As a believer of the YWCA, they have gained a fighter. They have gained a woman that will not let go. And so I know they know, but I hope they know now who they really have leading this organization. And I could not be more happy for you, but incredibly excited for our community. Because the time is now for a leader like you to step into the helm for the Y. So congratulations to you as well as to your family.
Liz, it's been a great honor to serve with you over the past 5 years, but as you know, our relationship goes back beyond that. It's been incredible to watch the work that you've accomplished, and I have to say, on behalf of myself, your contributions to this body, your contributions to the community, thank you, thank you, thank you. We've had a lot of discussions about kids over the course of our time serving together, and both of our kids in Columbus Public Schools and Columbus City Schools. And just the opportunity to get to know your family, Patrick, Maribel, Russell, Carolyn, all of you. You guys are always welcome over to our zoo anytime. And certainly hope to see you over there. But I want to thank you for the work that you've done. There's lots more to do. As we know, there's some items that we didn't get to accomplish while you're serving here. But look forward to the opportunity as you serve the women in the YWCA that we will get those things accomplished. And I appreciate everything that you've contributed and certainly your friendship. And so look forward to what's ahead. And I know that you're only a phone call, text away. So thank you.
And lastly, before I turn it over to either Carolyn or Patrick, just again, thank you on behalf of this council, on behalf of the city, for the service and sacrifice that your family has made so that Councilmember Brown could serve the way she has done. So I'll turn it over to you before we give it to President.
President Harden, council members, thank you very much. It's been awesome getting to know you guys over the last few years, and we really appreciate everything. Liz, congratulations. Love you, baby. Thank you.
With that, I'll turn it over to President Pro Tem.
Thank you so much. My almost 2-year-old really couldn't understand why I wouldn't leave with her. So that's what that was about. She wanted me to walk off the stage, and she didn't understand that I couldn't. And normally I give her my cell phone to distract her, and even that wasn't working. So thank you to my mom for taking her out. I want to first start by saying thank you to my family, to my parents. My dad is here. My mom is in the hall with Maribel. My stepdad Joe is here. My stepdad mom Connie is not, but she is here in spirit. My in-laws Tom and Mary, my sisters Emily and Laura, my niece Jackie, and my kids. Carolyn, Russell, and Maribel. If I got nothing else done at City Hall, I did add 3 beautiful people to the world in the time that I was here. It's very easy for me to remember how long I've been on council because it's just Carolyn's age. Because you were born right before I was elected, right? Yep, you were. And I love you guys, Carolyn, and thank you for coming to so many of my meetings. And thank you, of course, to Patrick, and none of this would be possible without you, and I swear we won't be here tonight past like midnight. None of the work gets done without partnership at home. I mean that wholeheartedly. I want to say thank you to my colleagues individually, if you'll permit me. I'm not going to take a really long time, but I've worked with these people for so long. I really want to publicly thank each of you because you're amazing public servants. And Councilmember Barosa de Padilla, you broke a barrier for Latinas when you got elected, but what I truly love is how you didn't stop on election day. You break barriers every day here in the way that you serve, the way you bring community into City Hall and channel overlooked voices and rewrite the rule book, and I thank you for that. Councilmember Bankston, I am so impressed by your instincts and savviness for getting things done here at City Hall. You know how to broker, compromise, and find commonality, but not compromise your values. That is to be commended. After 12 months of working together, it does feel like the three of us have been sitting here together for years, and the only bittersweet piece is that we don't have more than 12 months. Councilmember Remy, I will say, you give Councilmember Remy a problem to solve, and you can be guaranteed it's going to get done. He will not give it up until it is done. I appreciate that so much about you, and you build community along the way, too. But my favorite of all the Remyisms is how sentimental he gets at Thanksgiving. So thank you for all of your hard work and sentimentality. Councilmember Favor, I remember one of your very first meetings in your tenure on City Council, maybe around your second or third meeting in, and there was a tough zoning in front of us. You listened and then you zeroed in on the essence of the issue with like one tough but fair question after another. I remembered at the time thinking back to my first meetings and just being bowled over by how early you owned your voice and your microphone, and you have helped all of us understand issues better by the way that you think things through and question things. I appreciate you. Councilmember Dorans, there is no better champion for workers than you. Over our time serving together, I've learned so much from your clarity about how to fight and when to fight. And I have watched you work through issues like wage theft that prior to you eluded us in their complexity. The workers of our city are very well served by all you've done and all you're still aiming to do. And when in doubt, when you're not sure what to do next, we all know your superpower is a one-liner, so fall back on that. Council President Hardin, you told that story about, I'm sorry, I'm a little with my microphone here. You told that story about the debate. It was, I don't know, 4 or so days postpartum. And he told the story in a way that was very generous to me, because actually what happened up there is I had to leave. I was doing my thing. I was 4 days postpartum and trying to use my brain, which is hard, 4 days postpartum. And at a certain point, it was clear I needed to get home. And I was sitting next to Council President Hardin, who was just a newbie candidate like me at the time. And I turned to him and I said, I gotta go, do you have my back? And he said yes. And I handed it off and I left. And that story to me explains so much about our dynamic together. And when we need to hand things off to one another, we know and we trust. The heart you bring to this work is rare, and I'm thankful for it, and it serves our residents so well. So thank you, Council President, for these 7 years of working together. We are your senior veteran types up here on the dais. So I'm sorry, I still have more thank yous, you guys. I really want to thank the people that you often don't see get called out when things get done. First and foremost, for anyone who saw the display out there, Miss Linda Capabianco and Clerk Angie Blevins did it. And my kids, whoever made those counterfeit $100 bills, you are their hero. They think they're rich. But all the good I've done here has been because of others around me. And that's advocates, that's activists, it's our residents themselves, but most of all, it's our staff and team members. So I want to highlight a few of the staff and a few of the things that they've gotten done. Kelsey Ellingson and James Carmine were the rock of my office as a team for 6 years. In this last year, they've been joined by Tigges Semina since James left. And everything we got done was them together. You might have heard about the first paid family leave policy in our city. That was because of Kelsey and James and Shelley Biting and John Oswalt. My Meet Me at the Playground office hours, where we allowed residents to come and bring their kids and advocate with our elected official, that was the hard work of my office. Our capital budget process to demystify how money works at the city, that was Matt Erickson and James and Stanley Gates. our early childhood education scholarships and efforts. That was Matt Smido and Sierra Adams and my whole team and the folks at the Crane Center. Over and over, it was our staff that stepped up to the table. It's the directors that sit here that step up and make the good work of this city happen. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who worked along the way. Even when like some of you thought I was crazy and couldn't do what I was trying to do, which has happened. I appreciate that you were along for the ride and we got it done anyway. So I want to close with a really quick word about where I'm going. When I told my kids that I got a new job, Carolyn here was a little bummed that this meant no more trips to City Hall with me. But she asked me what I was doing next, and I explained to her what the YWCA does, particularly around serving homeless families. Her eyes and her smile grew very big, and she said, "Oh, Mom, can I help?" And that little heart for service, she gets from her great-grandmothers, my grandmothers, Carolyn Ummel and Emily Campbell Brown. And Emily Brown, she really made her mark in her community at her YWCA Mansfield. It instilled in me a commitment to the work of the YWCA. Their mission for eliminating racism and empowering women is a cause generations behind us have fought for and ones that generations ahead of us will continue to commit to. I began my work in politics because of the conviction that laws and policies aren't just words written on a page, but they have the power to change lives. And changing lives is the everyday work of the YWCA. So saying goodbye to this chamber is a tall order, and I will just end by saying that 7 years ago, I walked in total awe of what we could accomplish, and today I will walk out at the end of this year still in awe of what can be accomplished. So thank you all for staying committed to that work, and thank you for the time today.
We will let that be the last word. With that, is there a motion for this resolution? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Congratulations. Now, we still have her for 2 more meetings, so we're about to jump into it. Are there any comments by the City Attorney's Office, City Auditor, City Treasurer's Office? At this time, I request the following ordinance to be removed from the consent action portion of the agenda. Public Service and Transportation, ordinance number 3167-2022, and from the Finance Committee, ordinance 3434-2022. Are there any other requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance? Seeing none, may we now have a motion for waived reading of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda?
Public Service and Transportation Committee Ordinance 3187-2022. Finance Committee Ordinances 3174, 3175, 3353, and 3360-2022. Recreation and Parks Committee Ordinance 3003-2022. Public Utilities Committee Ordinances 2905, 2951, 3116, 3120, 3124, 3193, 3208, 3245, 3247, 3256, 3269, 3303, 3315, 3320, 3334-2022. Housing Committee Ordinances 3249, 3294, 3296, 3350-2022. Health and Human Services Committee Ordinance 3468-2022. Public Safety Committee Ordinances 3160, 3180, 3219, and 3246-2022. Rules and Reference Committee Ordinances 3199, 3197, 3240-2022. Zoning Committee, ordinances 3260, 3343, 3414, 3421, 3455, 3262, 3335, 3344, 3352, 3410, 3412, and 3417-2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We don't have any speakers on the first reading portion of the agenda, so the following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolution of Expression 237X-2022, Economic Development Committee, Resolutions 226X, 227X-2022, and ordinances 3169-2022, Small and Minority Business Committee, ordinances 3002, 3255, 3448, 3454, 3459, 3461-2022, Technology Committee, ordinances 2857, 3190-2022, Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinances 3067, 3135, 3162, 3163, 3227, 3230, 3231, 3241, 3248, 3261, 3263, 3287, 3304, 3318-2022, Neighborhoods and Immigrant, Refugee, and Migrant Affairs Committee, ordinances 3195, 3201, 3212-2022. Finance Committee, ordinances 3056, 3064, 3131, 3171, 3220, 3225, 3268, 3389-2022. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinances 2750, 2752, 2792, 2798, 2799, 2804-2022. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 2923, 3001, 3032, 3055, 3059, 3114, 3224, 3347-2022. Workforce Development Committee, ordinance 3374-2022. Housing Committee, ordinances 3228, 3301, 3383-2022. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, ordinances 3156, 3239, 3275, 3278-2022. Health and Human Services Committee, ordinances 3115, 3234, 3250, 3271, 3276, 3364, 3472-2022, 3473-2022. Public Safety Committee, ordinances 2826, 2838, 2941, 3061, 3069, 3184, 3211, 3226, and 3229-2022. Environment Committee, ordinances 3117, 3265-2022. Administration Committee, ordinances 3126 and 3137-2022. We have appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A02, 220, 221, 222, 235, 236, 237, 239, and 240-2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have one speaker on the consent portion of the agenda. Mr. Nate Wilkins is here to speak on Housing Ordinance 3383-2022. Mr. Wilkins, welcome back to council.
Arlington Avenue, Mr. Lieutenant George Wilkins. I would like to speak in favor of 3283, 2022. I seem like this is an awful lot of money for $3.5 million for the tax bond. I would like to extend this money to be $8,497. I'd just like to know, we talk about affordable housings and things and stuff like that, but again, I don't think it's enough money. But like I said, I want to see this more money to be idolized for $8,997 to make sure we have more affordable housing through the state of Ohio. That's all through the state line through Ohio. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Thank you for your continued advocacy. Are there any questions or comments, concerns with consent portion? Seeing now, may I have a motion to approve of these items designated as consent? Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Mr. Bangston.
Yes, with the exception of ordinances 3304, 3220, 3234, 3473, 3265, and appointment 0240-2022, from which I'm abstaining.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Dorans.
Yes.
Ms. Favor.
Yes, with the exception of ordinance 3195, 3201, and 3167, from which I'm abstaining.
That's the exclusion of 3167, correct? Yeah. Mr. Remy. Yes. President Harden.
Yes. Ordinance are passed with the noted exceptions. We'll now proceed with the second reading in 30-day and tabled or postponed legislation. The first committee to come before council is the Economic Development Committee, chaired by Councilmember Bangston. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. May I first jump to rules and reference on page 30, please? Thank you. Tonight in rules and reference, we have ordinance 3221-2022 to amend chapter 4561.11 of the Columbus City Code to increase the minimum wage from $15 an hour to $20 an hour for all employees to which an incentive applies. Council colleagues, I'm really excited about this amendment, and I think that it's been a hallmark of the work that my office has done this year. First, I want to thank the leadership of President Pro Tem Brown. In 2018, Council passed and codified and established a wage threshold of $15 an hour for jobs tied to city tax incentives portfolio. And with that, we had to review that every 3 years. Tonight, this legislation proposes to bump the wage up from $15 an hour to $20 an hour. In other words, if you are a current full-time employee earning $15 an hour, working for a company that is slated to receive a tax incentive from the city after the passage of this ordinance, you will see an over $10,000 increase in your paycheck thanks to this legislation, and that is to be commended. Over the course of our 2 hearings on this proposed change, we heard from community partners that an increase in wages is necessary as our constituents are navigating higher home prices, pricier goods, and pricier services. I want to thank Director Stevens, Deputy Director Quentin Harris, and the rest of the great team at the Department of Development for all the work that they've done to get us to this point and all of the analysis that they have done. So thank you so much, Deputy Director Quentin Harris, for your work on this. You know, I've always said this, that economic development is about people. It is about the opportunity that it provides for our residents, and I'm happy to do my part in securing higher wages for our residents. But I'm also happy to do my part with the rest of my colleagues around this table. This is not simply about the wage. It is about the collective work that this council continues to do, whether it's Councilmember Dorans, who led on wage theft, that said if folks are working full-time, they deserve to be treated as full-time laborers and have a W-2 and make sure that they are getting the same benefits as everyone else, whether it's Council President Pro Tem, who's leaving us, but fights every single day for childcare to ensure that our residents have access to childcare so that they can go to work, so that they can have a dignified life. Or whether it's earlier this year, Councilmember Favor and your work with our CRA around affordable housing, making that threshold even deeper to 60% AMI. And for me, it's all of these policies working together and demonstrates that this council believes in our workers, believes in our residents, and believe that they deserve a living wage. And if you work in the city of Columbus, you should be able to live in the city of Columbus. So thank you so much, council colleagues, for all of the work that you have done behind the scenes, all the conversations and counsel that you have given my office as we went through this process. Before I move for passage, are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Remy.
Chair Bangston, I'd just like to thank you for the work that you put into this over the course of this year. It's been, a big lift, but certainly we want to make sure that those businesses and the development deals that we put out there, we hold them to a higher standard than most. And so this was critical work. It's something that I know that we've asked the administration to consider. It would be my hope that our own employees get to that level as well. as we become, in this environment with inflation and everything else, the constraints that it makes tougher to live within the city of Columbus. We want to make sure that we're providing a living wage here as well. So thank you for all the work that you put into this. Look forward to supporting the ordinance this evening.
And thank you for your leadership and counsel through this process, Vice Chair. Thank you. Councilmember Favor.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to add, I talk a lot about systemic issues. And, if we're talking about addressing our affordable housing crisis in a comprehensive way, it does nothing for us to continue to put shovels in the ground if our folks can't even afford to purchase a home, right? And so this legislation is so incredibly important, and it's so incredibly timely as we are working through the true impacts of COVID-19 when we think about the economic structure here in the city of Columbus. So I want to thank you for powering through. This was a heavy lift, without a shadow of a doubt, but I am so excited and encouraged that it pairs up very well and very timely with all these other pieces of legislation that we're fighting for. Thank you.
Absolutely. President Pro Tem.
Councilmember Banks, and I just wanted to thank you for carrying this forward and ensuring that we're really looking at this as a true housing wage, a real family-sustaining wage is another way to think about it. And I want to highlight one thing you said, which is that, when we originally passed the wage minimum for job creation projects, we put in the review time. And that is so important for all of us to recognize, is that we will stay on this, right? This council will stay on this and ensure that wage threshold in another 3 years is where it needs to be for our residents. So thank you, council member.
Thank you. And Council President? No? Okay. With that, I move for passage.
And as I call the vote, just again want to thank and appreciate the leadership that you showed. The process that you went through was so thorough, listening to everybody, engaging with the administration, to something President Pro Tem said earlier, but not compromising your values all along the way is how we got to this evening. And so this is a very big deal for our community. All the times that we speak up and we do our job of encouraging job creation in this city from thus forward, we will expect these wages for those types of jobs in our city. And so I appreciate, as a new chair of economic development, you took this as your top priority. You ran with it, you did the work, you got there. Certainly want to thank the administration and the department for being along, but very grateful for this. And good job. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, President Harden. Now may I move back to the Economic Development Committee?
Please.
Tonight in the Economic Development Committee for second reading, we have ordinance 3025-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a dual-rate jobs growth incentive agreement with Safecore Health LLC for a term of up to 5 consecutive years in consideration of the company's creation of 100 new net full-time permanent positions with an estimated annual payroll of approximately $12,389,296 and the retention of 129 full-time jobs. Safecore Health LLC serves over 1,000 hospitals with unit dose repackaging and has other lines of business, including commercial products with distribution to wholesalers and contract packaging for other pharmaceutical companies. They are requesting a dual-rate jobs growth incentive for a term of 5 years and are proposing to invest a total project cost of approximately $2,200,000, which includes $1,700,000 in leasehold improvements and $500,000 in machinery and equipment to expand its current operations here in Columbus. All 100 of these jobs are well over $20 an hour. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I will move for passage at this time.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
That is all in the Economic Development Committee. May I move to Small and Minority Business?
Please.
Thank you. Tonight in Small and Minority Business Committee, we have ordinance 3065-2022 to authorize the Director of the of the Development to encumber funds for anticipated contracts totaling an amount up to $675,000 with to-be-determined firms to implement the Accelerate Columbus Scale Up and Grow program targeting small businesses, to authorize the expenditure of up to $675,000 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. And we have Deputy Director Quentin Harris to speak a little bit more about this ordinance, but I'm really excited about the work that the small business team has put together in moving forward our small business agenda. This in particular will make sure that we're serving entrepreneurs, but making sure that we're serving them in a culturally competent way, and that we are working with organizations that are at all different sizes in our community. And if you heard me say anything about our small and minority business community, we have to be intentional. And so this is a way that we are being intentional to make sure that our small minority businesses, and in particular entrepreneurs, see themselves in Columbus. Deputy Director Harris.
Thank you, Chair Bankston, members of council. The Accelerate Columbus Small Business Program provides small business training, technical assistance, mentoring, and advisement programs targeting existing entrepreneurs in the city. Our goal is to take businesses that survived the pandemic and support them in thriving long-term here in the city of Columbus. We received 19 submissions from a variety of organizations and small businesses. $674,000 will fund programming to be offered throughout 2023 in the areas of marketing, social media, sales, business accelerators, revenue growth, and overall business support. Workshops will be free to attend and are expected to launch in February of 2023. Programming with targeted health and food-related businesses, Main Street businesses, minority and women-owned businesses, as well as businesses located in low to moderate income areas throughout the city will be the focus of the program, and we are really excited about the opportunity to help growing small businesses throughout the city in 2023, and we really appreciate the leadership and guidance you provide us in establishing this program.
And thank you, Deputy Director, to your team. And I want to shout out Ariana, our small business administrator, and Mark Lundeen, our administrator over there as well in economic development, for the work that they're doing. I think when I first took this role and I said our priority has to be sustainability, right? It's not about just giving that $10,000 grant. If that business's doors is closed the next year, we haven't done them justice. So this really focuses on making sure that they have the wraparound services they need to be sustainable. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage at this time.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next in small minority business, we have ordinance 3252-2022 to authorize an appropriation and expenditure up to $1,000 from the Job Growth Subfund for the purchase of food and/or beverage items for the small business roundup reception on December 1st, 2022, and to declare an emergency. The date of my Office of Small Business roundup hearing has changed from December 1st to January 17th, requiring this legislation to be postponed last meeting and amended tonight. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
And now move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And the final ordinance in my committees this evening is ordinance 3378-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Columbus Urban League in an amount up to $1,100,000 for the purpose of supporting workforce development training in the technology field for minority communities, to authorize the transfer of $600,000 from the general fund citywide account to the Department of Development general fund budget, to authorize the expenditure of $1,100,000 from the general fund, to approve expenditures incurred prior to the approval of the purchase order, and to declare an emergency. This is funding that will go to the Columbus Urban League to aid us in ensuring that those in the Black and Brown community are upskilled and have the ability to be prepared for jobs of the next generation. The Urban League continues to be a great partner with us in this area, and excited for them and the organizations they will be working with. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I will move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston,
By voice.
By voice, yes.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla,
Yes.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Dorans, Ms. Favor? Mr. Remy? President Harden?
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Thank you, and that's all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. The committee is chaired by Councilmember Barosa de Badia. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. And I do have one very quick announcement that I
Please.
forgot to make at the beginning of the meeting, but it is important. This Thursday actually marks Latina Equal Pay Day, and I know throughout the year we have highlighted the equal pay days of specific groups of women, starting with Women's Equal Pay Day in March. And I want to highlight this because it is the last equal pay day of the year. It is also, we've also moved back in terms of equal pay for Latinas. So in 2020, a Latina made 57 cents to a white man's dollar, according to the National Women's Law Center. This means that Latinas would have to work until the age of 90 to make the same amount of money as her white male counterparts that he would make it by the age of 60. That gap has now fallen to 49 cents to every dollar that a white non-Hispanic man would make. So last year, we've actually moved almost a full month past where we were with Latina Equal Pay Day. This Thursday, we'll be holding a conversation in conjunction with the Women's Commission at Plaza Tapatía, which is on the west side, a Latino-owned business, at 10 o'clock to have a conversation about what we can all do to help close the gap for equal pay for all women, in particular for Latinas during this conversation. So if folks are interested in coming to that event, they can reach out to my office and we can share more information about what that means. Hopefully at our next council meeting, we'll share a little bit more about what we're doing towards Latina Equal Pay Day. But I wanted to ensure that we highlighted that because as we talk about ensuring that we're paying people more, we also need to acknowledge that women are still behind what men make in our communities. And we need to acknowledge that for women, depending upon who you are and what you look like, that gap is even further. And so in order for us to move forward, we need to acknowledge that, not only acknowledge it, but understand what each of us can be doing as small business owners, as citizens, and as a council to ensure that women can move forward. So thank you for that, for letting me make that announcement. Moving on to public service and transportation, we have two ordinances today. The first being ordinance 3125-2022 to waive the competitive bidding requirements of Columbus City Code to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into agreements with Lake Erie Construction Company and RoCal Incorporated relative to highway signage replacement services, to authorize the expenditure of up to $90,000 from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund for services, and to declare an emergency. Typically, ODOT maintains signage for highways by state contract, with Columbus responsible for funding signage upgrading within Columbus corporate boundaries. Upgrading is normally ordered for the entire ODOT region, but due to specific material failure, the upgrading of a smaller subset of signs is needed outside of the ODOT planning schedule. Lake Erie Construction Company and RoCal Incorporated are able to accommodate the accelerated upgrading schedule. Director, is there anything you want to add?
Maybe. I'll just add that most of this work will be done on State Route 315. So if you've driven that road, you'll notice that the green reflective material does not reflect like it's supposed to. So that is what this project will take care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. Next ordinance 3182-2022 to appropriate funds from the unappropriated balance of the Mobility Enterprise Fund, Division of Parking Services, to author the Director of Public Service to enter into a professional services contract with Data Ticket Incorporated for the Citation Processing Management System and Permit Management System contract to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,200,000 from the Mobility Enterprise Operating Fund to pay for this contract and to declare an emergency. The intent of this project is to provide the Division of Parking Services additional resources that are necessary to perform various professional and technical tasks for the Citation Processing Management System and permit parking. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Great, seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. I have one amendment, so if we could go back to page 14 on the consent agenda, ordinance 3167, 2022, to amend the 2022 capital improvement budget to authorize the Director of Public Service to execute a contribution agreement with and make payments to the Short North Alliance relative to the Short North ornamental arches to authorize the expenditure of up to $159,609.48 from the Street and Highways non-bond fund, and to declare an emergency. So due to supply chain issues and a long lead time in procuring 960 replacement lights for future use, the Department of Public Service desires to close out the existing construction project and turn the procurement of the lighting over to the Short North Alliance. Director, anything you would add?
Yes, President Harden, Council Member Brosa de Padilla. So with this project, what is happening is this is part of the Short North Streetscape project, and we're wanting to close that project out. But as part of that project, Short North Alliance is going to be taking over the maintenance of the arches. And so as part of that, though, we have agreed to purchase an additional set of bulbs for all of the arches. So they will have that to be able to maintain, at least for a while, the arches with these bulbs. So that's what this is about.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions, comments from my colleagues? So I move to amend the ordinance to 30-day legislation.
Row.
Mr. Bangston? Yes. Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes. Abstain.
Mr. Dorans? Yes. Ms. Favor? Mr. Ramey? Yes. President Harden?
Yes, or amended.
Now I move to waive second reading on this ordinance.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston? Yes. Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Abstain.
Mr. Dorans? Yes. Ms. Favor? Mr. Ramey? Yes. President Harden?
Yes.
And now I'd like to move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston? Yes. Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes, sorry.
Ms. Brown?
Abstain.
Mr. Dorans? Yes. Ms. Favor? Mr. Ramey? President Harden?
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Thank you. May I move along to neighborhoods and immigrant, refugee, and migrant affairs?
Please.
Thank you. So I'm very excited about the ordinance that we have today, and we do have some speakers if they want to start making their way down. Ordinance 3463, 2022, to authorize the city clerk to enter into a grant agreement with Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio, NICO, for their Honoring Our Heritage to Ensure Our Future project, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the general fund, and to declare an emergency. The Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio, or NICO, is devoted to preserving and restoring balance in the lives of Native Americans through traditional, cultural, educational, family, community, and wellness-driven values and initiatives. A significant aspect of the NICO mission focuses on organizational capacity and sustainability, in that NICO is a resource available to the local Native American community. The Honoring Our Past and Ensuring Our Future project focuses on meeting the voiced needs and concerns of the NICO community, specifically focusing on cultural preservation and restoration and community development. And I'm excited to have here with us today Ty and Masami. Did I say it correctly? Masami. Smith to the podium to speak on this ordinance.
Nich Pachwai, Inimunamuma, Tanan, Chamakli, Shiapo, Inknash, Waniksha, Winch Ilks, Kwalthakla, Halil, Ma'ayat. I want to say thank you all for allowing us to be here today. And it's really an honor, and I'm glad that you would come down our way, Lourdes, and reach out to us and make time. We're very honored. It's really something that we wouldn't even have known would have been possible at this point in time, but we're just so thankful that the city would think to lift us up like this. Our work is, it's very meaningful. We stand as really the only viable urban Indian center in the state, so the people that we represent, we speak on behalf of them in particular. Everything that we stand for and all that they personify in the work that we do, you know, I want to say on their behalf as well, thank you. The monies that will be coming from this grant are definitely going to be going to the programming that our people are direly in need of, really. For most of our people, this is their home away from home, but a lot of times it's hard for them to really find that place to truly call home. But as NACO, we serve as that place for them. So your guys' decision here today as leadership, I want to thank you all as, the leaders here within the city for, thinking about us in this regard. But it definitely goes to a favorable cause. It's one that really is going to lift up our people. I want to say thank you, Kuala, all of you, for championing our people. Lourdes, again, for extending the warm handshake and just really opening the door as you have. And this will lift up the things in area, though, of culture specifically, but also community development, two main areas that our people are looking for a lot. I'm going to ask my wife if she wants to add to that.
Thank you. Kothlan Ushamash, Inknash Waniksha, Masami Smith, Washnash Knik, Yakima Ku Warm Springs Nation. I said, my name is Masami Smith. I'm the Executive Director for the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio. I come from the Warm Springs and Yakima Nation of the Northwest. Tyrone and I are enrolled at the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, Oregon. I'm thankful. Kothlan Ushamash, that means in our language that we're thankful. And I think that this whole thing is like a blessing. We were having a transition, and this year, this money is going to make it possible for meaningful programming for our community. And so, very thankful for you reaching out to us and for the City of Columbus recognizing our community. I'm really happy for our people. Hola.
Thank you. Thank you both. And I was saying I was really excited about this because I think we started this meeting today talking about history and how we cannot forget our history, because our history is how we learn and our history is how we get better. Our history is how we get better. And by creating space for everyone in our community to celebrate their cultural heritage, their identity, and being their truest selves is how we become the best of ourselves, right? And it's how we learn, by coming together and uplifting community. And so I want to thank you both for the work that you do. I want to thank you for continuing. We had a conversation about this as a first-generation American. I know that it's difficult to sometimes carry the traditions of our ancestors and how we do that and how that shows up in everyday life. So thank you for continuing to preserve the culture. The way that the city can support you in doing that and support our combined history and our combined learning to be better together is so important and so critical. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I want to open it up to my colleagues if you have any questions, comments. Great. So with that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Voila.
And that is all I have this evening. Thank you.
Madam Chair. I would say thank you to you for that piece of legislation. One of the things I heard the folks say twice was that we would not even have known to come here, and that your office led. And so many times we talk about this being everybody's community, and sometimes we have to make sure, we have to reach out and make sure they know that we are here to support them because they're supporting our residents. So good work, Councilmember. Thank you. Thank you. Pres Pro Tem, actually, what time is it? It is 6:30. Yeah, may I have a motion for recess? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
We are in recess, 4-minute break, and then we'll start zoning. Regular meeting number 58 will now come to order. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorans chairs that committee. All members serve one. And Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, first a little bit of housekeeping. Will the clerk please read the numbers of legislation in the zoning committee tonight that require waiver of second reading?
3264, 3300, 3305, 3042, 3140, 3257, 3258, 3259, 3297, 3299, 3302, 3307, 3336, 3337, and 3043-2022.
Thank you. Next, I move to waive second reading on those items that have been read.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you. Moving into the agenda, allow me to briefly explain our current rules pertaining to speaking before council on rezoning and council variances. We will only hear staff presentations on ordinances that have a disapproval from a recommending body or if we have a public speaker signed up to speak against an ordinance. Tonight, we have received two public speaker slips. All speakers on council variances, including city staff, area commissioners and applicants, and members of the public, will be sworn in before they give testimony. Representatives of the area commission and applicants are always able to speak on an ordinance and do not need to fill out a speaker slip. On the advice of the city attorney's office, I will now swear in city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer the pains or penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you. Please let the record show that Tim Dietrich from the Department of Building and Zoning Services and Dan Bleschmidt from the Department of Public Service have been sworn in. First, moving into the rezonings, we have ordinance 3264-2022 to rezone 990 East Dublin Granville Road, being 1.62 plus acres located in the northeast corner of East Dublin Granville Road and Boardwalk Street from CPD Commercial Plan Development District to CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is Driven Brands Incorporated, care of Dave Perry Agent. Proposed use is a car wash facility. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Development Commission's recommendation is approval. Northland Community Council's recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3300-2022 to rezone 885 Stelzer Road, being 13.49 plus acres located on the west side of Stelzer Road, 180 plus feet south of East 11th Avenue, from C4 Commercial District to M2 Manufacturing District. The applicant is CL Stelzer LLC, care of David Robinson, attorney. Proposed use of manufacturing development. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Development Commission's recommendation is approval. The East Columbus Civic Association's recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3305-2022 to rezone 5314 Avery Road, being 2.7 plus acres located in the northeast corner of Avery Road and Avery Run Road, from CPD Commercial Plan Development District to LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Metro Development LLC, care of Jeff Brown, attorney. Proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. Development Commission's recommendation is approval. Hayden Run Civic Association recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3042-2022 to rezone 5159 Central College Road, being 5.0 plus acres located in the south side of Central College Road, 660 plus feet west of North Hamilton Road, from R Rural District to LR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Robert Weiler Company, care of Mike Shannon, attorney. Proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. Development Commission's recommendation is approval. The Rocky Fork Black Lick Accord Implementation Panel is also approval. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. We now move into the council variances portion of the committee hearing. We have first ordinance 3140-2022 to grant a variance provisions of section 3353.03 permitted use of the Columbus City Code to the property located at 2686-2772 Sawberry Boulevard to permit a salon, massage, and pet training / grooming uses with an existing office development in the C2 Commercial District. The applicant is Sawberry Columbus 4M, care of Yancey U. The proposed use is a commercial development. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Far Northwest Coalition Community recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3257-2022 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.037 R2F, residential districts 3312.25 maneuvering, 3312.49 minimum number of parking spaces required, 3332.05 A4 area district lot width requirements, 3332.14 R2F area district requirements, 3332.19 fronting, 3332.21D building lines, 3332.25 maximum side yard required, 3332.26 minimum side yard permitted, and 3332.27 rear yard of the Columbus City Codes, the property located at 670-672 and 674-678 Mohawk Street to permit a residential development with reduced development standards in the R2F residential district. The applicant is Sam Szymanski, care of Dave Perry agent. Proposed use is a residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. The German Village Commission recommendation is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Next, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have a rezoning, variance 3258-2022 to grant a variance provisions of section 3356.03, C4 permitted uses, 3363.41 storage of the Columbus City Codes, the property located at 1769 East Dublin Granville Road, to permit an automobile storage in conjunction with the off-site dealership in the C4 Commercial District. The applicant is Caldwell Real Estate 161, care of Jeff Brown Attorney. The proposed use is automobile storage. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Northland Community Council's recommendation is also approval. First, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have ordinance 3259-2022 to grant a variance of provisions of section 3332.035 R3 residential districts, 3332.13 R3 area district lot with district requirements, 3332.228 side or rear yard obstruction of Columbus City Codes, the property located at 1471 24th Avenue to permit a two-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the residential district. The applicant is Dominic Lupino. The proposed use is a two-unit dwelling. City's Department recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission recommendation is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
I next move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3297-2022 to grant a variance from provisions of section 3332.035 R3 residential district, 3312.49 minimum number of parking spaces required, 3332.05 A4 area district lot width requirements, 3332.13 R3 area district requirements of the Columbus City Code, so property located at 319-321 Linwood Avenue, to to permit a 3-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 residential district. The applicant is James K. Venable. The proposed use is a 3-unit dwelling. City Department recommendation is approval. The Narrow East Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Accept it.
I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3299-2022 to grant a variance of provisions of section 3361.02 CPD permitted uses and section 3361.03 development plan for the property located at 6335 East Broad Street to permit a shared living facility in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is Lighthouse BH Solutions, care of Matt Romeo. Proposed use is a shared living facility. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Far East Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. We have one speaker signed up to speak in favor of this application tonight, Ms. Tia Marcel Moretti. Ms. Moretti? Good evening. Come up to the podium and I gotta swear you in real quick. Ms. Moretti, you beat me to it. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under pains or penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Ms. Moretti, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Good evening. Thank you, Council. My name is Tia Marcel Moretti. I'm president of Lighthouse Behavioral Health, third largest substance use disorder facility in Ohio. With 140 sites and 18 clinics, we got our start here in Columbus, specifically Whitehall. And we're seeking council variance approval to be able to utilize this space as our phase 0, which is 30-day, fully staffed, the first 30 days after they have, client has been detoxed, medically stabilized, to integrate into the community as part of a year-long continuum of care. So they're with us for about 8 months to a year.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Ms. Moretti? Seeing none, thank you for the work that your organization does. And also, I just want to say thank you for working with the community to make sure that those folks were also supportive of this application. That's not always the easiest thing, given some of the things that you all deal with, and just want to say thank you to you and your folks for going the extra mile to make that happen. So thanks for being here tonight.
So welcoming and attentive to substance use disorder.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. If there are no questions or comments, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3302-2022 to grant a variance provisions of section 3356.03, C4 permitted uses, 3309.14 height districts, 3312.53B, minimum number of parking space, minimum number of loading spaces required, and 3321.05 B1 vision clearance of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 793 North High Street to permit a mixed-use development with reduced development standards in the C4 commercial district. The applicant is the Woods Company, care of Michael Shannon, attorney. Proposed use is a mixed-use development. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Victorian Village Commission's recommendation is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report and new evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Accept it.
I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3307.2022 to grant variance from provisions of section 3312.13 driveway, 3312.25 maneuvering, 3312.29 parking space, 3333.18 building lines, 3333.255 perimeter yard, and 3333.35 G private garages of the Columbus City Code, so the property located at 5314 Avery Road to permit reduced development standards for multi-unit residential development in the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Metro Development LLC, care of Jeff Brown Attorney. Proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Hayden Run Civic Association's recommendation is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, move to adopt the findings of staff, the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. Finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3336-2022 to grant a variance for provisions of section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3312.27 parking setback line, 3312.49 minimum number of parking spaces required, and 3332.05 A4 area district lot width requirements of the Columbus City Code to the property located at 2275 Hamilton Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Residential Design Solutions, care of Dominic Lupino. Proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. The City's Department recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. We do have a speaker signed up to speak against this application, so therefore we will hear staff presentation. Mr. Dietrich, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair Dorans, President Harden, members of council. The site consists of one parcel developed with a single-unit dwelling zoned in the R3 Residential District. The requested variance will permit redevelopment of the site with a 2-unit dwelling, which is not a permitted use in the R3 district. Variances for reduced parking setback, a 1-space parking reduction, and reduced lot width are also included in the request. The site is within the planning area of the South London Land Use Plan, which recommends medium-density residential land uses at this location, and includes complete adoption of Columbus Citywide Planning Policy's design guidelines. City staff supports the requested variances as the proposal is consistent with the housing types and land use recommendation of the plan, and the submitted building elevations are consistent with C2P2 design guidelines, and therefore City Department's recommendation is for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Dietrich. Do I have my colleagues have any questions of the department at this time? Seeing none, I would like to invite Mr. Robert Morris to the podium. Mr. Morris? Mr. Morris, if you could raise your right hand and swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth that is usually answered under the pains or penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Mr. Morris, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak today. First, I'd like to tell you that these glasses are dark. They're prescriptions. I broke my other pair, so that's the only reason I'm wearing those, so I apologize. But I would like to speak in regards to the variance for 2275 Hamilton. I am concerned with the minimum number of parking spaces that everyone is thinking is okay. The front of the home, as you, at the front of the proposed duplex actually faces Clinton Street. My house is directly across Clinton Street, 20 feet from the proposed duplex. My issue, and it has been a problem for the year that I've been there, for the year that I've owned the home, a little over a year, about a year and a half, is that I do have people who will park on my property, including the duplex that's actually next to the proposed duplex on the other side. They sometimes do that. And the issue isn't that they park there. The issue is that at 1 o'clock in the morning, there's 6 people standing outside making a ruckus, just a few, at their car, which is a few feet away from, my home, when I have to get up and go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's my issue. I understand, I was looking at the plans online, I understand that the duplexes are approximately 950 square feet. If they possibly, put a 1-car garage, like a 1-car attached garage, like a lot of the townhomes have, it may reduce their, the living square feet, maybe 750, 770 maybe, but it would alleviate, that issue for me. I did speak to several of my neighbors who were also not very pleased with this, but unfortunately, they didn't really see the point in coming and speaking against it. I actually don't have a problem with the duplex. I just have a problem with the minimum parking spaces that are being required. If you're not going to require two, then you're taking away, I don't want my backyard to be their, primary source of parking. Primary source of, hey, let me park here in this guy's yard for 10 minutes while I go run in here. That's not what I bought. That's not what I signed up for when I bought a house in Columbus, Ohio. Because I have had problems with, the city water trucks, the city trash trucks. I've had problems with the city sewer, the city inspectors, when they built a sidewalk, for the corner lot for, Courtney Music's property where the proposed duplex is to be developed. Where do they park? My property. So I hope that you consider that before you approve this variance.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Mr. Morris?
Mr. Morris, can you just remind me, where is your property in relation to this one?
My property, I'm sorry. My property, if you're looking at, okay, so the front doors of the proposed duplex are directly across the street.
Okay.
So my house is here, Clinton Street is right here, and the front doors of the duplex are right here. So Clinton Street goes right here. And honestly, who wants to park in the back of a piece of property, and have to walk 60-some feet, to their front door when they can just walk across the street, and be there, including, the 4-foot sidewalk, 24 feet, and be at their car.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Did want to ask the department staff, what is the number of reductions that the variance is granting?
This request is granting a reduction from 4 required spaces to 3, so it's a reduction of 1 space.
Gotcha. Is a representative of the applicant here with us tonight, Mr. Dominic Lupino, or Mr. Lupino? Want to give you an opportunity to make a presentation. Hi. I need to swear you both in, if that's all right. Please raise your right hand, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer the pains or penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Floor is yours, and I think that Mr. Morris's comment specifically around about the parking reduction, so you could speak to that in any types of ways that to sort of prevent, I think, what his main concerns are.
Yes, thank you. These issues were brought up during the area commission meeting. The lot is obviously a very narrow lot. It also being a corner lot restricts the location of where the parking can be. It has to be at the rear of the lot. As the site plan shows, we're showing the 3 parking spaces off of the alley that is off of Clinton Street. Like I said, this issue was brought up at the area commission. We tried to assure the neighbors that this is going to be a nice property in which the management of which Courtney here is representing is going to do all that they can possibly do to make sure that certain regulations are enforced on this property. And I'd like for her to speak about that.
Hello, I'm Courtney, and I am the owner of the land that we're proposing the duplex on. I own several properties in the Linden area, and I pride myself on ensuring that we have tenants that are that fit in well with the neighbors, the issues that he's referring to with regards to parking on his lot. The other neighbors that came at the council variance, I provided them my personal phone number. I don't want to create an issue for the neighbors. So I have dealt with, other things at other properties where the neighbors contact me. I always have a good relationship with the neighbors, and I appreciate when they're telling me things that's going on. I also want to address, we're actually, even though the current code requires that we add 2 parking spaces per unit, when the home was built, it didn't require that. So as of right now, there's no parking. So the other option, if we were to leave it as a single family and repair the property that is currently there, it would be repaired with no parking, which would mean there would be 2, if there are 2 cars, that would be putting 2 additional cars on the street. Because this plan only is actually taking away 1 spot from the 4, this is actually taking 1 car off of the street than would actually be there as it is. So this is actually a better plan than it is as is. Even though I completely understand the concern, this actually addresses it, doesn't hurt it.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for the applicant at this time? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Morris. No, we don't do back and forth, so I'm just going to ask you to keep your comments brief here, if that's okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. I do apologize. This is my first time that I've ever done this.
All good.
And she sounds reasonable. Courtney does sound reasonable. But I did want to address one thing, and that was that they had both spoken about that there was a prior hearing. I never got notice of that hearing. I didn't know about that until 2 weeks after it occurred. And the only reason I know about this hearing is because one of my neighbors actually texted me a copy of the hearing notice that they received. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Morris. And I think some of those notice issues are potentially attributed to the area commission providing notice and sort of the amount and how broad that is. So I apologize that you didn't receive that, but unfortunately that happens from time to time. I certainly understand the concerns of Mr. Morris here, but considering we were talking about the reduction of only 1 space here, and again, given that the current property does not have any parking, I would feel comfortable with moving this forward at this time, and would ask the applicant to make sure that they work with Mr. Morris, because again, I think some of the issues that he's experiencing right now can't be attributed to this property, but if there's going to be new people moving into this area, again, it's on the applicant to make sure that they are working with existing property owners to make sure that they're being reasonable neighbors as well. So I would ask to make sure that they do that. Mr. Morris has taken time out of his day to make sure he's articulating what his concerns are on the front end, and this council's expectation is that, especially if folks are coming back to us again, is that they be good neighbors moving forward. So with that, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3337-2022 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.035 R3 residential districts, 3312.49 minimum number of parking spaces required, 3332.05A4 area district lot width requirements, 3332.13 area district lot width requirements of Columbia City Codes for the property located at 1371 Aberdeen Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 residential district. The applicant is Residential Design Solutions, care of Dominic Lupino. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. The City's Department recommendation is approval. North London Area Commission recommendation is also approval. First, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, finally, we have ordinance 3043-2022 to grant variance provisions of section 3333.255, perimeter yard of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 5159 Central College Road to permit a reduced perimeter yard for multi-unit residential development in the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is the Robert Weiler Company, care of Mike Shannon, attorney. Proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. The Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord Implementation Panel is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
City's Department, I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With leave, Mr. President, I didn't get here in time for the earlier festivities. I wanted to commend Councilmember Brown. I am not here in my individual capacity. I am a member of the National Association of Irish Catholic Republican Inner City Attorneys and pundits, known as NICRAP. I am the only member, but I'm expected to have a good time at our annual meeting. But on behalf of brethren and sisterhood of zoning attorneys, we want to thank you for your accessibility and your candor, whether you supported a project or did not. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for the indulgence. And finally, Mr. President, every member of this council owes Chairman Dorns a debt of gratitude. I have not been on the floor of council for over a year since he's been chair of zoning, and you should give him an extra Christmas present for that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. And with that, that is the end of the zoning committee for this evening.
See no further business or motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adjourned. Let's take a break, 10 minutes at the most. All right, 10 minutes, we'll get back to it.
Thank you. Turn it out. Turn it out.
Regular meeting number 58 will now come back to order. Is there a motion to reconvene? Clerk, please call the roll. That motion was on meeting number 57. I apologize.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
We are back in our regular meeting number 57. The next committee to come before council is the Finance Committee chaired by President Pro Tem. President Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, President Harden. In Finance tonight, we have Ordinance 3223-2022 to authorize and direct the city auditor to establish an auditor's certificate in the amount of $7 million to fund a Columbus Regional Green Fund in support of clean energy projects and a range of clean energy and energy efficiency initiatives that benefit the greater Columbus community on behalf of the Department of Finance, to authorize the transfer of $7 million from the general fund to the Sustainable Columbus Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of $7 million from the Sustainable Columbus Fund for the purposes described above. This funding will support clean energy project financing for non-for-profits and affordable housing developments within the city of Columbus in alignment with the Columbus Climate Action Plan and the city's commitments to equity and environmental justice. Sustainable Columbus, in coordination with the Columbus Partnership, has been working to establish the Columbus Regional Green Fund and are working with other localities to make funding commitments to the entity to further its community impact. Any questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Next is Ordinance 3340-2022 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to initiate a transaction to reimburse the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, $1,009,626.80 due to ineligible costs having been charged to the program, to authorize the transfer of $1,009,626.80 within the general fund, to authorize the expenditure of $1,009,626.80 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. What helps our city build and maintain relationships with our federal partners is our commitment to internal review processes. Between January 1st, 2019 and December 31st, 2020, the city received CDBG funds from HUD. After an internal review of labor expenditures, $1,009,626.80 were identified not to comply with the provisions of HUD's cost principles and audit requirements of the federal awards. So today, Deputy Director Chris Long from Finance and Management will provide detail about the correction of this in this ordinance.
Good evening, President Pro Tem Brown, President Harden, members of council. As part of our routine monitoring of our housing and urban development grants, we determined that certain personnel expenditures that were charged to the Community Development Block Grant were just simply ineligible for that program. And as such, we're seeking authority to use general fund dollars to reimburse HUD for those expenditures. The good news is this is a net zero fiscal impact to the city. HUD will make those dollars then re-eligible for us to use under our 2023 action plan, which we have already advanced to council. I'm happy to answer any other further questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Director. Net zero. We like that. Fiscal impact. Any questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And then if we could go back to consent page 17 for ordinance 3434-2022 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities, Director of Public Service, Director of Recreation and Parks, and the Director of Finance and Management to modify existing construction and service contracts for the sole purpose of adding escalator and de-escalator clauses to allow for cost increases of various construction, materials, supplies, and services, and to declare an emergency. An amendment needed to be made to this ordinance to include the Director of Finance and Management. Since all of these departments oversee oversee all construction contracts, this amendment will grant them oversight as well under these terms. Do my colleagues have any questions about that? Seeing none, I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Amended.
And then I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you so much. And then I have, may I move to Recreation and Parks?
Please.
Ordinance 2808-2022 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into contract with Harrell's LLC for the purchase of golf course pesticides for the Rec and Parks Department, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $215,715.50 for the purchase of golf turf pesticides from the Recreation and Parks Operating Fund, and to declare an emergency. With the changes to the pesticide application program previously, the Golf Division has been able to reduce the number of applications and product while producing noticeable results with improved playing conditions. And this is achievement that should not be overlooked, as a reduced use of pesticides no doubt has positive implications to the public's health. Harrell's LLC is the current supplier for golf fertilizers and pesticides and has been an efficient partner, resulting in no issues to the Airport, Mennel, Champions, Raymond, Turnberry, and Wilson golf courses. Harrell's submitted an informal cost proposal in the amount of $215,750.50, making this purchase eligible for a rebate totaling $47,556.75. It's recommended to waive competitive bidding of $329, as the pricing structure set by Syngenta Golf Course Pesticide Supplier requires the same pricing to be offered to each local vendor. And in order to take advantage of the fall purchasing program, the order must be placed this month, hence the emergency action. Any questions? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
I have one in rules and reference. Should I do that now or wait to the end?
Sure.
No.
Yeah.
Rules and reference ordinance 3222-2022 to authorize the city auditor to deposit hotel motel excise taxes related to the Greater Columbus Convention Center Hotel as defined in Columbus City Code Chapter 371, to authorize the city auditor to remit certain hotel motel excise tax proceeds, the city project excise tax proceeds, to the Franklin County Convention Facilities Authority pursuant to the cooperative agreement dated January 1st, 2010, and the first supplement to the cooperative agreement entered into May 1st, 2019, to amend various sections of Columbus City Code Chapter 371 to revise the definitions in connection, with the recent completion of the hotel expansion project, and to declare an emergency. With the recent completion of the project, it's necessary to authorize the deposit and remittance of related hotel motel excise tax proceeds to the CFA as pledged by the city in order to pay debt service on revenue obligations issued by the Franklin County CFA to finance that project. This ordinance does not authorize appropriation or expenditure of funds, but instead it grants authority for city code definitions to be amended to allow for the remittance in accordance with the first supplement to the cooperative agreement. Deputy Director Long, is there anything you would like to add to that explanation of changes to City Code Chapter 371?
Good evening, President Pro Tem Brown, President Harden, members of council. No, just you said it perfectly. It's just a simple code amendment change to update the language given the recent hotel expansion.
Thank you, Deputy Director. An emergency action is requested so that authority can be granted to the auditor. Any questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight in Public Utilities, we have Ordinance 3000-2022 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to associate all general budget reservations resulting with this ordinance with the appropriate universal term contracts / purchase agreements with Perriton Water Group, doing business as Perriton Flow Technologies LLC, for the purchase of Fairbanks Morse pump parts and services for the Division of Water, to authorize the transfer in between 6006 Water GO bonds and 6008 appropriated an expenditure of $225,000 within the Water Permanent Improvement Fund, and to amend the 2022 capital improvement budget. This contract will allow the rehabilitation and replacement of various pumps at the Hapkermeen water plants. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
Next, I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3118-2022 to authorize the Director, Department of Public Utilities, enter a contract with Performance Consulting Services for training services, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes, and to authorize the expenditure of $86,200. Includes contingency fees of $4,109 from the Electricity Operating Fund, the Water Operating Fund, and the Sewer Operating Fund, and the Stormwater Operating Fund. The funding from this ordinance will go to training services for the Department of Public Utilities Evolving Leader Development Initiative, which is designed to provide leadership skills through professional, individual, and workplace team engagement. The department has a previous agreement with Performance Consulting Services, and they wish to continue with this program. Due to the proprietary nature of the Performance Consulting Service trainings that are listed in the scope of work that are specific to the Department of Public Utilities, it's in the best interest of the city to waive competitive bidding provisions for this legislation. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. With your permission, Council President, I'd like to move on to rules and reference.
Please.
Thank you. I have ordinance 3194-2022 to amend sections 1161.03, 1161.06, 1161.07, 1161.08 of the Columbus City Codes to revise the division of power electric service deposit requirements and to repeal the existing code sections being amended. The Division of Power has collected electric deposits from customers for several years and will continue to collect deposits for new service. However, in the past, deposits accrued an interest of 4% per year, and the deposit could be returned to the customer with interest upon termination of the account. The Division of Power will be returning all existing customer deposits for customers prior to January 31st, 2023, with interest in the form of a credit to their account to offset future charges. For new customers established after January 31 of 2023, the deposit will be returned in the form of credit to their account to offset future changes after a year in good standing with payments made on time. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Housing Committee chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in the Housing Committee, we have ordinance 3279-2022 to amend the 2022 capital budget. Tonight, we are legislating over $6.5 million in affordable housing bond funds, resulting in 130 affordable housing units in Columbus. Within the 130 units include permanent supportive housing units, which are critical to our community. So, as 3279 reads, it's to amend the 2022 capital budget to authorize the city auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the special income tax to the Affordable Housing Taxable Bond Fund, to authorize the director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement in an amount up to $1.9 million with Erie, Ohio Capital CDFI Fund, LLC, for the Columbus Renaissance Housing Development, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $1.9 million within the Affordable Housing Taxable Bond Fund and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Erie, Ohio Capital CDFI Fund, LLC. The Columbus Renaissance Housing Development is a partnership with Community Development for All People and Woda Cooper Companies, and it will be located at 33 West Morrill Avenue in Merriam Village. The property will feature affordable workforce housing with 46 units at 60% of the area median income and will be geared toward a variety of residents: young professionals, single-parent households, small families, and even seniors. The combined project will foster services to support families, aging in place, and workforce housing concepts. Amenities on site will include management offices, a health and wellness center, community rooms, and more. The project is within steps of CODA bus stops, the Berliner Sports Park, several restaurants, houses of worship, Salvation Army, and the highly rated Southwood Elementary School. In addition to the myriad of supportive services and programming opportunities directly offered through Community Development for All People, the development will also engage with other local partners to expand future programming to be offered to all families, households, single parents, seniors, or anyone residing at the Columbus Renaissance Housing. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3283-2022 to amend the 2022 capital improvement budget. to authorize the city auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the special income tax to the Affordable Housing Taxable Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement in an amount up to $3.5 million with the Erie, Ohio Capital CDFI Fund, LLC, for the Starling Yard project, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $3.5 million within the Affordable Housing Taxable Bond Fund and to declare an emergency. Starling Yard will occur on the former school site located at 120 South Central Avenue. When completed, the project will deliver new high-quality infill development with important, safe, and accessible affordable units needed by families. It will redevelop a vacant historic structure as affordable housing units while at the same time returning the building to its more appropriate 1908 configuration and provide housing in an underserved area of the city of Columbus. Starling Yard will contain 52 units and will be mixed income featuring affordable housing ranging from 30% of the area median income up to 80% of the area median income, accommodating various household sizes. On-site amenities will include management offices, community room, and much more. The project is less than 100 feet of COTA bus stops and provides quality retail, including United Dairy Farmers, Bottoms Up Coffee, several restaurants, houses of worship, Jubilee Market Grocery, and Lower Lights Pharmacy. If there are no questions from my colleagues, I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
And now I move to, I'm sorry, President. I move to pass as amended.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3328-2022 to amend the 2022 capital improvement budget, to authorize the city auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the special income tax to the Affordable Housing Taxable Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement in an amount up to $1.25 million with the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority for the McKinley Manor Apartments project, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $1,250,000 within the Affordable Housing Taxable Bond Fund and to declare an emergency. This property will have 54 mixed-income units featuring low-income, age-restricted senior housing accommodating senior households, 55+, with incomes ranging from 60% of the area median income and below, and 44 one-bedroom housing units with Section 8 project-based rental assistance to target housing needs in the community. McKinley Manor is working with the YMCA to receive their permanent supportive housing funds from the downtown YMCA with a commitment that McKinley Manor will take the qualified tenants from the downtown YMCA location. Life Care Alliance is providing the transportation needed to make this possible. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Department of Development, Director Stevens, and all the folks working to ensure that we are providing a wide range of affordable housing. But tonight is definitely incredibly important as we are working to provide deeply affordable housing for our residents in the city of Columbus. So thank you to the department. With that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston? Yes. Ms. Barosa de Padilla? Yes. Ms. Brown? Mr. Dorans? Yes. Ms. Favor?
Yes.
Mr. Remy? Yes. President Harden.
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Thank you. May I move on to criminal justice and judiciary?
Please.
Tonight in criminal justice and judiciary, we have ordinance 3277-2022 to authorize the appropriation of $4,715,560 from the 2023 unappropriated balance of the Franklin County Municipal Court Special Funds to the Franklin County Municipal Court for all anticipated expenses and to declare an emergency. The Franklin County Municipal Court is the busiest court in the state of Ohio and continually strives to improve services to every litigant who appears before the court. To this end, the court charges a variety of court fees to provide additional support to the administration of its departments and programs. This ordinance authorizes the appropriation of $4,715,560 for the fiscal year 2023 within the following Franklin County Municipal Court special funds: the IDAT Fund, the Security Fund, the Dispute Resolution Fund, the Home Incarceration Fund, the Special Dockets Fund, the Self-Help Assisted Civil Fund, the Probation Fund, and the IDAM Fund, which provides sufficient funds to pay the cost of attendance at court-ordered treatment centers. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
May I move on to Health and Human Services?
Please.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3033-2022 to authorize the Board of Health to enter into contract with Knupp and Watson and Wallman Incorporated and to modify said contract if portions of previously appropriated and encumbered funds are used or unused, and reallocate unused funds for the implementing enhanced HIV prevention and surveillance for health departments to end the HIV epidemic in Ohio grant program for the provision of services allowable under the grant for persons with HIV or AIDS in Central Ohio, to authorize the expenditure of $222,123 from the Health Department Grants Fund to pay the cost thereof, to waive competitive bidding of City Code Chapter 329, and to declare an emergency. The purpose of this grant is to create disruptive innovation by seeking to prevent new HIV infections by focusing on 4 pillars: treating HIV to achieve viral suppression, diagnose HIV so that all persons know their HIV status, prevent infections through PrEP and syringe support programs, and respond to HIV clusters or outbreaks within the community. This grant specifically focuses on the diagnose and prevent pillars. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3232-2022 to authorize the Director of Development to modify a grant agreement in the amount of $1.5 million with Alvis Incorporated to advance the planning, design, and construction of additional space, to continue providing residential reentry space treatment and services, to authorize the reimbursement of expenses incurred prior to the purchase order, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1.5 million, to authorize the city auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the Special Income Tax Fund to the Northland and Other Acquisitions Fund, to appropriate funds within the Northland and Other Acquisitions Fund, and to declare an emergency. This is a second contribution of a 2-year capital commitment totaling $3.5 million. Alvis offers comprehensive human services to meet the needs of some of our most vulnerable members of our community. They currently operate 6 residential reentry centers, 4 outpatient centers, and 1 administrative office building. They are looking to expand the Alum Creek facility to construct and connect a 2-story building on adjacent land. The projected cost of the project is $25 million. Once completed, the additional facility space will enable them to increase their capacity to serve residents from 280 to 350. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I'd move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. May I go back to page 8, please? We have in Health and Human Services, ordinance 3468-2022, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a beneficiary grant agreement with Community Shelter Board in an amount up to $7,398,138 of the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds, to provide operating support for CSB's Emergencies Shelter Program, and to pay for expenses starting January 1st, 2023, to authorize the Director of Development to modify the terms and conditions of the beneficiary grant agreement as needed without seeking further City Council approval in order to align with the most current version of the laws, regulations, guidance, to authorize the expenditure of up to $7,398,138 of ARPA funds. At this point, I would like to move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston,
Abstain.
Ms. Barosa Padilla,
Yes.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Dorans,
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Thank you. May I move on to rules and reference? Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3176-2022.
Madam Chair, we skipped a step. That just waived the second reading.
I'm way too excited.
No, it was my fault. So waived.
Oh, wait. Now I move for passage
Second? Is there a
by
second?
voice.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Mr. Bangston?
Abstain?
Ms. Barosa de Padilla? Ms. Brown? Mr. Dorans?
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, now ordinance is passed.
Thank you. I was excited to get to the next ordinance and rules and reference, 3176-2022, to amend sections 2303.05, 2303.14, 2323.11, and 2323.20, to enact sections 2323.191, 2323.32, and 2323.321, and to repeal existing sections 2303.05, 2303.14, 2323.11, and 2323.20 of Columbus City Codes to effectuate common sense gun reform and to declare an emergency. A few months before I joined council in 2019 in Dayton, Ohio, an armed gunman headed to the Oregon Entertainment District armed with a semi-automatic firearm, equipped with a 100-round drum magazine, and proceeded to carry out a mass shooting in which 9 people were killed and 27 were injured in just 30 seconds. Since then, numerous additional mass shootings have taken place all over this country, and Columbus has not been immune to gun violence. It has long plagued our city, robbing us of our most valuable asset, our people. We have seen how gun violence has ripped through our communities, especially among our youth. Last year alone, 91% of homicides in Columbus were committed with a firearm. Gun control simply cannot wait. The truth is, we know what we can do to stop devastations like these. It's common sense gun laws. This legislation will effectuate common sense gun reform in our community, thereby creating a safer Columbus. Simply put, this is about protecting our community. This legislation will define large capacity magazine as any magazine, belt, drum, feed strip, clip, or other similar device that has the capacity of or can be readily restored or converted to accept 30 or more rounds of ammunition for use in a firearm. This definition does not include any of the following: a feeding device that has been permanently altered so that it cannot accommodate more than 30 rounds of ammunition, a .22 caliber tube ammunition feeding device, a tubular magazine that is contained in a lever action firearm, or a magazine that is permanently inoperable. This legislation will prohibit the possession of a large capacity magazine by anyone other than a federal or state agent or armed service member, or a member of state or local law enforcement. There is just simply no reason for ordinary citizens to possess military-grade weapons. Secondly, it will promote the safe storage of firearms. Safe storage of firearms is imperative to saving lives. This legislation will penalize those who fail to exercise due care in storing their firearms when they know or reasonably should know that a minor is able to gain access to them. Recognizing that there are residents who are safely storing their firearms, this legislation provides affirmative defenses for negligent homicide and negligent assault when a resident has properly stored their firearm. And finally, this legislation addresses straw man sales of firearms and the role that they play in guns falling into the hands of wrong individuals. This legislation prohibits the reckless selling, lending, giving, or furnishing of a firearm to a person who is prohibited from possessing a firearm. It criminalizes an individual who purchases or attempts to purchase a firearm who intends to sell the firearm to a person who is prohibited from possessing a firearm. While we know this is not an overnight fix to an invasive problem, it is a step in the right direction to creating a safer Columbus. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? And we also are joined by Attorney Laura Baker Marsh, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Columbus City Attorney, Zach Klein, and his leadership over the years as we've been working on some common sense gun legislation, and just incredibly excited to have the city attorney's support and obviously the advisement as we continue to navigate the legal process.
Thank you, Chair Faber. We're happy to continue off with the support of the City Attorney's Office in this very important common sense gun reform moving forward.
Any additional, yes, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Councilmember Faber, I just wanted to say thank you. I know that we have folks who have been working with you and with the administration on activists. We have Moms Demand Action. We have other folks here who have helped to push us forward. And I think that many times as a city, it's challenging when our role is to keep our people safe. And sometimes we have other forces that are actively working against us. And it ties our hands many times. You know, we look at state laws, we look at state policies that make it difficult for us to do the work that we are tasked to do, to be responsive to our people in our city. And so every little inch that we can move forward to ensuring that people can be safe, that we are protecting our people, is good work. And so I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the folks who are here today, who have worked tirelessly. I know they do this at the State House. They do it here at City Hall. We've seen you here many times. I want to thank you for your advocacy. I want to thank the administration for their advocacy as well, to just ensure that, you know, we've seen this happen in other cities. We've been blessed that it hasn't happened here. It shouldn't happen anywhere at any time. And so again, every little bit that we can move this forward to getting to the place that ultimately we want to be is good work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's been a pleasure working with you on this legislation. Obviously, this is a major public safety issue, but it is the little things, like you said. This is about as common sense as it gets when we talk about passing legislation that will help to secure guns in our city and that sort of thing. We cannot count on the state legislature. If you just look back to June, when they said you don't even have to take a class to conceal a weapon anymore. You know, you have to take a class to drive a car, but you don't have to do it to carry a gun. And even our FOP partners have said the same thing. They were adamantly against it. It is just not right. And so we're doing what we can, the little bit that we can in our community, to ask people to not have magazines more than 30, to not buy guns for people that can't buy for themselves. And finally, lock your guns up. This is what we're asking people to do. It is about as common sense as it gets, and I appreciate your leadership on this and the work that you put into this, and I'm proud to join you on it.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly underscore what my colleagues have said. And I also just want to add, in the face of the behemoth problem that illegal guns are in our city and that gun violence is in our city, any step can feel little, but actually what I'm sitting with here today, that this is really big. And I think it's especially big and especially courageous because of, frankly, a hostile state legislature. So I'm grateful for the willingness to think big about what is in our city's control, because we've been promised by the governor that he would act, and he has failed, and he's actually gone the other direction. And so it takes local governments to stand in the breach, and this is big, and I thank you.
I just want to echo the thanks for your leadership, but also want to say thank you for being ready. When we had the window, we weren't caught flat-footed, and that's because of your leadership. So thank you so much. I said at the hearing, and I say it again, this is personal for me. I'm a victim of gun violence, but I'm also a gun owner. So if you are a gun owner, if you are a gun activist, I say to folks, join us. This is common sense. This does not take away folks' rights. We don't have unfeathered rights in this country. They all have checks and balances, and this one is no different. So I ask that you join us in moving this common sense legislation forward. Come out of the shadows, let your voice be heard. Because for gun owners, this is common sense. It is good for us as gun owners, but it's also keeping our community safe. So thank you again, Chair, for your leadership.
Thank you. Yes, Council President Harden.
No, I would just echo all the sentiments of my colleagues. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Councilman Remy, for the partnership with Chair Favor. The City Attorney's Office played an outsized role in helping and backing us on this legislation to help draft it. We'd be remiss not to acknowledge the mayor.
That's right.
Who really leaned into this effort, and for months. And to Councilmember Bankston's point, we weren't caught flat-footed because there was a lot of work done before. And to Pres Pro Tem's point, every mass shooting, or even just bring it weekly, every shooting that we have in our community, or even this past weekend where we had folks walking around our children trying to intimidate them with assault weapons, it always seems like we're helpless.
Yep.
Or hopeless in the face of a state house that steps in the way of cities doing their part. It seems like we could be hopeless or helpless. Tonight's actions, this piece of legislation, pushes back on that whole narrative. Know that we are standing up. There is something that we can do. And even as Pres Pro Tem said, it might seem small. No, it's the exact opposite. This is a huge step forward because it shows that we won't be silent, that we won't cow to this type of extremism coming out of the state legislature. Yep. But rather that we will put forward common sense legislation that supports, to Councilmember Bankston's point, supports gun owners common sense in a common sense way. And so I hope this is a model. I hope that we will continue down this road to work with everybody who cares about people in our community and their safety. But for this step, I'm very grateful to all of my colleagues, but certainly to Councilman Remy and certainly Chair Favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. And, we would be absolutely remiss without formally thanking Mayor Ginther. His presence, his advocacy, he was very clear about his position and gave an incredibly moving testimony at the public hearing just a few weeks ago. So I just want to thank him and the administration for their work to help get us here as well. And then my former colleague, Councilmember Mitch Brown, Chair of Public Safety, now being led by Councilmember Emmanuel Remy. I had the opportunity to personally thank him for working alongside with me over the last 2 years. And although he is not here to see this come to fruition, I'm just incredibly excited and encouraged to have had the opportunity to work with somebody who was committed to this fight just as much as the 7 of us are here today. But this fight is not over. This is just a step in the right direction. And I was asked this question throughout this entire legislative process, if I was worried about the state or the Attorney General or any of those. If one life is saved, if one of our children have the ability to go to high school, to go to college, or to do whatever their life calls them to do, this is worth the risk for me. This is worth the risk for me. And so through the serious advisement of our city attorney's office, I feel confident with us moving forward in this direction. And I just want to take a moment to thank every single advocate who has ever stepped into this building and pleaded with us to do something. For every person who has advocated for us to wear orange or to light City Hall up orange or go down to the State House and make testimony. Your testimony, your loss is not gone without us recognizing it. And every day, and every time we heard those testimonies, a little piece of me would break, but never gave up hope that there would not be a moment in time when we would be able to do something. And so I hope that you all are proud of the work that you all have done. I am sincerely apologetic. My heart breaks for the loss that you have experienced, but you have allowed your loss to fuel your calling to make sure that change like this happens in cities like Columbus, Ohio. And for that, I say thank you. With that, I move for passage. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm way too excited. What do I need to do now? Oh, we have speakers. Way too excited. We have some speakers. No, we don't. No, we don't. No. No, we don't. 3253? No.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yes.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have ordinance 3253-2022 to amend Chapter 715 of the Columbus City Codes to prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco products and to provide for civil penalties, to repeal preempted provisions of Chapter 715 and to repeal provisions of Chapter 2329. Many of our residents have been engaged in the discussion on the regulation of the sale and distribution of flavored tobacco products within the city of Columbus. Last week, council shared amendments to the legislation and held 2 more opportunities to hear from residents. At this time, the city council is still working with our city attorney's office on the possibility of other exemptions and a few other specifics. I appreciate all of our residents that have taken their time to share information with us and answer our questions thus far. I'd also like to thank our legislative research team, Columbus Public Health team, our city attorney's office, and my team on engaging on this work. With that, I would like to call the speakers that have signed up to speak this evening. Elliot Boyce, Sr. is joining us via WebEx.
Yes, Council, thank you for having me. My name is Elliot Boyce, Sr. I'm a trooper, special kind of trooper. I am a black trooper. I've been a trooper for 35 years, spent most of my career working narcotics. I'm opposed to the ban because throughout my career, I really focused on interactions as it pertained to African Americans dealing with police officers, particularly like young men from Congratulations at East High School, where these interactions go sideways. Reason why they go sideways for nonviolent offenses, similar to like a ban on menthol or flavored cigarettes, in which police officers interact with them. I know the police or the deputy chief came in last week and stated that there will be no enforcement by the City of Columbus Police Department. Though I understand that puts that in a compromising way, or puts them in a compromising way, the police officers. Because once you ban menthol cigarettes, you make it contraband. Once you make it contraband, it is illegal, enforceable by the police, not by the health department. But what's uniquely interesting, though they said there would be no enforcement, they did not say there would not be any interactions. And over the years, the interactions is what caused many Blacks and Latinos their lives, causing their lives for minor offenses like having a counterfeit bill, not putting your cigarette out during a vehicle and traffic stop, or selling a loosey cigarette. These interactions have caused many their lives, and unfortunately, what we're seeing with the increase of gang violence or gang activity in Columbus, you're going to add something else to the trafficking, to the gang profile, which would be cigarettes. Smuggling is guaranteed. It's happening in every city that's had a ban. The loss of taxes is going to be there. But the more important thing, when you talk about interactions with police, what people are not taking into account, or I don't believe you've taken seriously into account, is the unintended consequences. What you're going to have is you're going to have individuals doing smash and grabs, which I've seen in the news in Columbus. You're going to have individuals doing smash and grabs in neighboring communities and trying to make it back to the city of Columbus with their proceeds. Recently, I read an article from Columbus where in Hilliard, there was a smash and grab and subsequently a police encounter in which the young adults took off, subsequently crashing and dying. These are the things that concern me when you do a ban. If you basically focus in on the enforcement end of it all, in which you create your Tobacco 21, which is going to be dangerous also once a ban goes into effect, because people will now be rolling not just against violations of fines, but criminal code. So if someone gets caught for selling, it'd be a felony in the state of of Ohio. I urge you to pause and do something like do a survey with the police officers on the street, the inspectors from the health department, and hear their voices on how this is going to impact them, the young adults in the community, along with the safety of the police officers that will be involved with these investigations. Thank you for your time. I
Yes.
also would like to say, Councilperson Liz Brown, thank you for being kind to me when I was in Columbus. You're a wonderful person. Much success moving on. And go Ohio State.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce, for your continued advocacy. Attorney Baker Morsh, would you like to offer any remarks?
Thank you, Chair Faber. Just to address a few of the comments that were made by the speaker, I just want to make it really clear that the ordinance that's being considered by council is for civil infractions only, and that the assertions that he's discussing regarding the criminal enforcement by the Columbus Division of Police, those are provisions that already exist in the revised code and have nothing to do with the ordinance that council is considering related to flavored tobacco. So if you have an individual that's selling on the street who does not have a retail tobacco license, that is already a violation of state law, and this particular ordinance does not change that particular factor. All it does is focus in on whether or not individuals who are licensed can sell flavored tobacco.
Thank you for that clarification, as we have received that information from Chief Elaine Bryant herself, First Assistant Chief Lashana Potts. We're also joined by our Safety Director. Definitely don't want to put you on the front street, but I guess I have. If you would like to make any remarks at this time.
Thank you, Councilmember Favorite. I applaud your passion for this and certainly will work with the Division of Police. As you know, we are challenged for prioritization of all the things that we're doing, but we obviously want to continue to work with council and continue to work with the Division of Police, continue to work with public health, and make sure that we are doing as much proactive work as we possibly can, and then also leveraging those intervention educational aspects that will help particularly our young people stay away from these dangerous substances. So thank you for your passion in this area.
Absolutely. Next, we are joined via WebEx by Rima Corey. I apologize, Rima is not on. Just for good measure, I'm going to call out Ayam Alamar.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ayam Alamar. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Once again, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak and share feedback from my community. I am an owner and operator of a hookah lounge downtown Columbus called Mango's Cafe. We are located in the Short North area and have been operating for the past 11 years. As mentioned earlier, previous testimonies I've given, the hookah culture, the hookah is a culture piece and have been around for centuries. It's practiced by lots of cultures, including Middle Eastern, North Africans, Armenians, and many, many more. I'm sure you guys heard it before, and I'm going to elaborate on it again. Hookah and vape and e-cig and electronic cigarettes are nothing alike. Hookah lounges are 21 and over to enter. An average size hookah, it is minimum in our lounges 2 to 5 feet. That is a big, big piece that cannot be hitting or taken on the street or used by anybody other than the hookah lounge establishment and their staff. Basically, to set up a hookah, and I want to elaborate on setting a hookah, it's a process. It takes, it takes the shisha, it takes water, it takes a specific charcoal that have to, to lit up with a specific, a burner, at least for 10, 15 minutes. It's a setup that really takes a training and an expert to put it together so we could actually serve it to our community and our clients. Hookah flavors and hookah bars been in the United States for 100+ years. Hookah bars are known for to host meetings, events like engagement parties. People celebrate their birthdays, practice their gathering, and hosting meetings of any of other cultures, and celebrate holidays from their homeland. We have a lot of customers from all over the Middle East, all over Africa, Turkey, and they do rent our establishment, and they celebrate their tradition because that's what they brought up to do, to smoke hookah and gather and socialize. Please allow us to practice our traditional culture and let us stay open. We're asking City Council to be exempt for hookah lounges to get an exemption and wholesalers and retailers to get our product from. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. And last but certainly not least, we have Galal Radwan.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, hello. My name is Galal Radwan. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity to share feedback from the community. I have been a resident of Columbus for years. I'm speaking today in hopes that my culture traditional of hookah is not eliminated. Hookah unique and unlike other tobacco products. It has been around for hundreds of years and practiced by Arab, North Africa, Indian, Persian, Armenian, and Turkish. Hookah is always been favored for molasses and honey. That's how it made. It has been around like more than 1,000-year tradition. Will be eliminated. This will be impact minority-owned businesses that are already struggling due to COVID and a challenging economy. Please consider exemption hookah from the proposed flavored tobacco ban and protect our right to practice our cultural tradition. And I just want to add one thing, just to mention it. Hookah, like, is in everywhere right now. If you go Europe, anywhere in Europe, in the mostly famous places in Europe and capitals, it's been over there like more than 20 years. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. At this time, I would like to move to amend as has been submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Amended.
I would now like to move to postpone this legislation until December 12th.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Postpone.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Safety Committee. Chaired by Councilmember Marine. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President Harden. Before I dig into the next 13 liquor objection resolutions, I want to share more about the process that has occurred and what these next pieces of legislation mean before moving forward with the agenda. Each year, Columbus is required to submit any objections to the renewal of liquor permits within the city by December 31st. Throughout this calendar year, the City Attorney Office has worked with community leaders, Columbus Police, Fire, Health, Building, and Code Enforcement, as well as various state entities, including the Ohio Investigative Unit, to identify and investigate liquor permitted locations that have violations of state and city code and chronic criminal activity, including violent crime, overdoses, and liquor violations. Proposed objections are then presented to council, and if approved via resolution, are sent to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. The objection does not result in any immediate change to business operations. The City Attorney's Office is committed to working with these businesses to enact appropriate security and safety improvements for their establishments and surrounding neighborhoods. Last week, on Tuesday, November 29th, we hosted the very first public hearing outside of our regular hearing, where we heard a detailed presentation of the overall process and on each of the 13 liquor objections on the agenda. We heard from the Assistant City Attorney, Sarah Pomeroy. We held this hearing on the annual liquor objections list in a separate public hearing from our regular Monday council meetings in the hopes that it would give more time for presentation and discussion ahead of any vote. A handful of objections remain from 2021 liquor objections lists that have not been given a hearing date before the Division of Liquor Control and have not yet fully been resolved before we must renew the liquor objections for 2022. This is a long process. The conversations don't end tonight, and some may be resolved before a hearing is ever scheduled with the Division of Liquor Control. But let me be clear. If you take up this city's resources by having hundreds of police and fire calls for service, or someone is shot, stabbed, murdered, inside or outside of your establishment, this city attorney and this council will strenuously object to your operation inside these city limits. 99.9% of the businesses in this city operate stand-up establishments where there are few incidents. Tonight, for these establishments, this is another invitation to have a conversation with the city attorney's office to establish safety protocol, invest in technology, hire security and special duty officers to ensure that our residents are safe and you are operating an upstanding business in our community. To this point, we had one objection that as of 2 p.m. on the day of the hearing was resolved and was not included on the agenda this evening. There is also one objection that is on the agenda this evening that as of today has been resolved to the point where the city attorney requests it be postponed, and I will be asking my colleagues for a vote in favor of postponing indefinitely. Assistant City Attorney Sarah Pomeroy manages this process for the city attorney. Would you like to add anything before we move into reading through the resolutions?
Thank you, Chair Remy, and thank you, members of council, for allowing me to speak briefly this evening. Councilmember Remy did outline generally what our process is. This is a year-long collaboration, certainly between community members, between businesses, between police, fire, health, code enforcement, building department, multiple state agencies. This is a process by which we are constantly identifying, investigating, and evaluating locations throughout the city for possible objection. The other big part of what I do is nuisance abatement lawsuits, and a lot of what we are looking at both in the nuisance abatement world and the objection world are similar. What drives us is violent crime, overdoses, certainly in the liquor context, liquor violations, and what we have found as this process is very dynamic. I think this year we've had more touch bases with businesses throughout the year. We've sent more warning letters when incidents have happened. We've had more times when we've been able to meet with businesses. We've had more times when businesses have actually decided and landlords have decided to potentially close or adjust throughout the year. I always like to say, absent, I think, sort of the year-long effort that we put in, there could be 40-some objections here, just if we're looking solely at numbers and not trying to evaluate throughout the year, evaluate who's cooperating, things like that. I'm happy to answer specific questions as we go through each of the individual locations, but I just wanted to reiterate some of what Councilmember Remy had said and assure this body that we do not take any of this lightly and certainly are trying to prioritize balancing safety of our neighborhoods, the livelihood of these businesses, and we'll continue to work with folks well after tonight's votes are held. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant City Attorney Pomeroy. So I'll go ahead and begin with these resolutions. We do have some speakers on one of the resolutions, but certainly if any of my colleagues have any questions, please speak up. So our first resolution is 239X 2022 to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 1258534 held by Carlos Newsstand LLC, doing business as Beechcroft Newsstand, located at 1935 East Dublin Granville Road, Columbus, Ohio 43229, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Next, I have Resolution 240X 2022 to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 9294865 held by VM3015 Inc., doing business as Dollhouse and Patio, located at 1680 Carl Court, Columbus, Ohio 43229, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Next is Resolution 241X, 2022, to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 4103140 held by I Love High LLC, doing business as Julep, located at 1014 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43201, and to declare an emergency. Before calling for a vote, we have received numerous speaker slips this evening and written testimony. As a reminder, we can hear up to 3 speakers, both for and against, on an agenda item. First up is Donald Halpern. Please state your name and the organization that you may be associated with. You have 3 minutes, and welcome to council.
Thank you. My name is Donald Halpern, and I'm not associated with any organization. I'm a neighbor of Julep, so to speak. I live at 17 West 3rd, which is the building directly across the street from Julep. You have Equitas, and then you have a vacant lot, parking lot, with an empty, vacant check cashing building. And I overlooked that parking lot, and I overlooked Julep. In a nutshell, I'm speaking here today because I want to support the resolution to deny the renewal of Julep's liquor license. Julep is simply a bad neighbor. The entire time I've lived there, I've had to endure the nuisance, destruction, and danger brought about by the surroundings of their patrons and the environment created by their patrons outside their restaurant and in the surface parking lot outside my window. Items of particular concern to me with Julep are, number 1, unchecked underage drinking, excessive noise, littering, vandalism, fighting, over-intoxication of patrons, ancillary public consumption, public urination, hostile environments, and discharging of firearms. And I'll go through each one of these, and what I can't finish, our second speaker will pick up on. Number 1, unchecked underage drinking. Julep is a place where all the kids go to drink. I have firsthand knowledge of this. When I moved in 2 years ago, I was recently divorced, and I had a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 19-year-old. Julep was where they and their high school friends went. Some of the kids had fake IDs, some didn't. Julep would simply turn a blind eye to these kids, and that was the place where they would hang out. I've watched drunk kids in high school varsity jackets staggering out of that bar. It's disgusting. Noise. The noise from Julep is a constant problem. It ranges from loud blaring music to screaming during fights or partying to the loud, constant, intentional revving of engines from motorcycles parked in front of the establishment. Problems most severe during warm weather and on weekends, but it does keep me up at night. Littering. Almost every Saturday and Sunday morning, the parking lot outside my window is trashed with litter. Broken glass from bottles and car windows, discarded drug paraphernalia, used condoms, miscellaneous articles of discarded clothing, vomit, and the odor of urine, all left behind by Julep's patrons. There's actually somebody that the Short North pays that I see out there Saturday mornings cleaning some of it up. Vandalism. With the constant flow of over-intoxicated people from Julep, the parking lot across the street is constantly vandalized. Almost weekly, I observe broken car windows, new graffiti, and newly bent and broken signs. I've observed the patrons coming out of the bar and damaging property. Fighting. Fights happen so frequently on the patio that I think that's the place people go when they want to start fights. It happens frequently. Most disturbing, there was a fight outside Julep that you're probably all aware of, resulted in the death of one of the participants in the fight. Over-intoxication of patrons. Number 6, pardon the expression, but people go there to get really drunk. I'll leave the expression out. I don't know if Julep overpours, serves cheap drinks, or just attracts a clientele that likes to overindulge, but almost every busy night there's people staggering out of there or being carried out, getting in the cars across the street by my home and driving.
If you want to finish that thought, you can do so, but we did receive a copy of your testimony. Thank you. Every member has it, and we appreciate it. Our next speaker is Terry Rogers. Terry, thank you for coming down, Mr. Rogers. Please state your name and the organization you may be associated with.
Terry Rogers, and I just represent myself and my wife and everybody else in the community. We've lived there for 12 years, so we've watched the change. The thing that struck me most being in this meeting is your guys' dedication and your endurance for what you're handling. I think it's brilliant. However, I have noticed the word community has been used nonstop throughout every conversation, almost every conversation here. And what's gone on there is what was once a vital community is now horrible. And it seems like something that was entirely the result of something like Julep. What has gone on there was the change that took place right there on their patio, and Don has started with a great deal of that. Public urination has been a real problem. We had an open garage for a little while, and my wife ended up chasing out several guys who said to her why they were in there, "We came to pee." You know, it's ridiculous to have that as what our, quote, community has. The hostile environment, he has 2 daughters and a girlfriend. My wife, we've got several people that are elderly in the building. What's the likelihood that they're safe going in and out of the building like at any time after sunset? And so it's a dreadful situation in terms of just safety. A friend of ours just told us the other day that she loves to go to Bodega, but she's afraid to walk by the bar there because it's not safe. I mean, we've all seen the gunshots, the bullet holes through the bus stops, the bullets in the walls. It's a ridiculous situation to call the community at this point. And I understand that this may be futile only in the sense that we go through so many long agreements with people who say they're going to fix things and then don't. You've got 40 police calls, police events in 21. We've got 53, this is on the police record for 22, and change is negligible. And so my concern is the lies of saying yes. I don't know who the group was that just left, but they suggested by their manner that they had something to do with this type of hearing, and that's what I get from the behavior that is supported there. The discharging of firearms is really the most dreadful and probably the most legal problem that you guys have to deal with. Don was awakened not long ago from the discharging of a firearm in the proximity of Julep. We've seen repeatedly the reports of that, and we've had friends that have decided to move from the area because it's impossible to live with that as their faux community. So I thank you very much. I oppose their renewal of their license.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. Thank you. Our next speaker is Sam Michael. Mr. Michael, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name, any organization you may be associated with, and your address.
So thank you for having me, council members. Sam Michael's actually not here, and I'm associated with him. I was hoping I could take his spot to speak.
Are you a business partner or?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and what organization you're associated with.
Yes, my name is Kyle Teasley. I'm associated with Julep. And yeah, 1 second. I'm sorry, I prepared something for this. So I am a Columbus resident. I'm an OSU student. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm currently the general manager of Julep Short North. And I'm really unsure if words alone can express the disappointment I have in the city as well as the treatment by Columbus Police right now, specifically Officer Kermode. I'm unsure when these supposed 93 calls came from Julep, but I know for a fact that they have not occurred since I've been manager. I'm certain they didn't occur during the last manager's tenure as well. Safety for my staff and guests has and will always be my #1 priority, and we've continued to be one of the safest bars in the Short North, regardless of what is being reported. The same police who said we should work together to make it safer here for everyone, but when stopped for assistance about an outside issue, told us thanks for the tip and carried on down the road, are the same ones that are not helping us with our issues. Saturday the 26th is a perfect example of our commitment to safety, as we were packed with OSU and Michigan fans for the football game, and we didn't have as much as an argument. Meanwhile, other bars in the Short North had multiple violent incidents that required police intervention. Every section of our bars exemplified what it means to be a safe space in the community. My security has allowed citizens off the street to come in after close to get away from stalkers and abusers while they wait for their rides. My bartenders have given rides and Ubers to complete strangers who stumbled in drunk from other bars after their friends had left them. Multiple of my staff members have bought meals and given their own personal clothes to the homeless around Julep in the Short North completely unprompted and also out of the kindness of their hearts. There's only been one time I felt unsafe since I started my job at Julep, and that was during my interaction with Officer Kermode. Although it would be easy to dwell on the disrespect he showed me that day, I still asked him for ideas for Julep that would get us all on the same page. And instead of working together, like he said we should, our special duty officers were removed from Julep. Officer Commode may have a personal problem with me, but removing special duty officers from the Shore North feels petty, vindictive, and counterproductive, seeing as we're the only business on our block to employ or want to employ them. Regardless of the lack of help from CPD, my bartenders will continue to serve the whole community, regardless of race and creed, and including those who might not match what Officer Commode or the Shore North Association has in mind. And I will continue to ensure that everyone who comes into Julep is safe and welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony this evening. Our next speaker is James Dennis. Mr. Dennis, are you available? Next is Fadi Michael. Mr. Michael. Is Sammy Youssef in the house? Brian Scruck. And Keith Norman. All right. Assistant Attorney Pomeroy, would you like to address anything? I'm not doing the substitute thing. I'm sorry, I read a lot of names, so please state your name.
My name is Keith Norman.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I do apologize. I misunderstood when I was signing up to speak, but I am against the ordinance. As the head of security at Julep, I disagree with the notion that we are dangerous or unsafe. And as someone that's working the streets, working the bar and on High Street, I seriously disagree. So we are on the strip. I do acknowledge that, and I do apologize to the family that lives in that building. But by us being on that strip, there is foot traffic that is not only between Julep, Standard, and several other bars. So it's not just us. You living on that strip, you will and should expect some rowdiness, as some bars do have. There's a lot of activity at different bars. It's not just Julep. But what I want to say is that since I've started at Julep, I started about 3 months ago, we have put into different things such as making sure that we do full pat downs. We have 4 people on the doors at all times, and people inside of the building as well. So not only do we have rotations regarding people coming in and outside, but we also have people to stand on the patio. So the little incidents that the gentleman he stated before, that was a unfortunate situation. But what we're doing now is trying to make sure that we move forward in a better light, so that way people are safe and that we can avoid that situation from happening again, and to also de-escalate situations as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Assistant Attorney Pomeroy, would you talk about what the next steps will be with a bar like Julep if we were to pass this resolution? Obviously, as I stated earlier, this isn't the end of the conversation. This should really be a heightening of the conversation. So if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Chair Remy, and thank you to all the speakers tonight. So next steps, let's say passage, this body decides to pass this resolution. Typically, the timeline for scheduling a Division of Liquor Control hearing before COVID was about 3 to 5 months. We're looking at almost 12 months before most hearings are getting scheduled. During that time period, all of the businesses are permitted to be operating. If the city felt that something was meriting an immediate closure right now as soon as possible, that would be something we would probably file a nuisance abatement lawsuit for. Obviously, we have not done that in this case. Julep is still operating, as are most of these locations. And so what we would be looking at is, first and foremost, sitting down with everyone involved with that business to talk through, where have we been before? What changes have already been made? We would do a security assessment that involves Columbus Police actually walk both inside and outside the property, talk about appropriate security staffing, both in terms of private security and potential special duty. Special duty was pulled at the Julep location after the September incident. That was an internal Columbus Police decision, but that could potentially be on the table moving forward, especially if we can get to some assurances about operations moving forward. Certainly our office, and I sit down with every single business owner that we ever have objected against, especially if they're willing to sit down with us. And so a lot of what these next few months would look like is, like I said, doing an assessment of the property, talking through potential plans involving police, involving neighbors, involving fire, all of the various other city departments that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. So again, not the end of the conversation. We had one last year where new ownership took place. Conversations have continued. Same thing here. It's never the end of the dialogue. So are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on this particular resolution? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next is Resolution 242X, 2022, to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 9078365 held by 2635 Broad LLC, doing business as Mobile Mart, located at 2635 West Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43204, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next is Resolution 243X, 2022, to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 6530588 held by Old Timers LLC, doing business as Platform Lounge, located at 1058 Country Club Road, Columbus, Ohio, 43227, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues this evening? Hearing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next, Resolution 244X, 2022, to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 1173846 held by CSC 5512 LLC, doing business as Queen of Hearts and Pelican Club, located at 5512 East Livingston Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, 43232, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next is Resolution 246X, 2022, to object to the renewal liquor permit 841-899-42450 held by Speedway LLC, doing business as Speedway 9706, located at 3304 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43213, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next is Resolution 247X, 2022, to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 808-468-00005, held by Cheyenne LLC, doing business as Spotlight Lounge, located at 1662 West Mound Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43223, and to declare an emergency. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage or adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next is Resolution 248X, 2022, to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 841-899-40430, held by Speedway LLC, doing business as Speedway number 1216, located at 6175 East Livingston Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, 43232, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? First, I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
Next, I move to adopt as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next is Resolution 249X, 2022, to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 0079740, held by Ahmad's Petroleum, Inc., doing business as Sunoco, located at 2725 West Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43204, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Next up is a resolution of a business that has been resolved as of 5 p.m. today. I will read the title, ask Assistant Attorney Pomeroy for any additional comments, and then ask my colleagues to vote to postpone indefinitely. It's Resolution 250X 2022 to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 0023900 held by Abdullah Mart Inc., doing business as Saveway Mini Mart, located at 2585 West Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio 43204, and to declare an emergency. Assistant Attorney Pomeroy, I'll turn it over to you for additional comments.
Thank you, Chair Remy. This is an example, I think, of how this process can work. We actually were able to finalize an agreed order today that will be filed in the next day or two as part of an agreed nuisance abatement lawsuit. So I guess that is the tail end of that process I was describing earlier, where we would then file a case, but then immediately close it out with an agreement that outlines specific uplifts for cameras, lighting, security, various standards for employee training and things like that. So all of these are elements of this agreement that we have. Cooperation actually started from the jump with the business owners here, and those are the types of conversations we want to have. We want to be able to, come to a resolution, and we've done so here, and appreciate council entertaining this, even though we just resolved it this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Attorney. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move to postpone indefinitely.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Postponed.
Next, I have 251X 2022 to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 913-351-20649 held by UDF Limited Partnership 2, doing business as United Dairy Farmers 649, located at 530 South Hague Avenue, Columbus, Ohio 43204, and to declare an emergency. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
And finally, I have Resolution 252X 2022 to object to the renewal of liquor permit number 913-351-20634 held by UDF Limited Partnership 2, doing business as United Dairy Farmers 634, located at 1680 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio 43201, and to declare an emergency. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Finally, my last ordinance in public safety is 3111-2022 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to establish purchase orders from an existing purchase agreement with Motorola, Inc. for the purchase of portable radios for the Department of Public Safety, to authorize the City Auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the Special Income Tax Fund and to Public Safety's Capital Improvement Fund, to authorize the expenditure of $2 million from Public Safety's Capital Improvement Fund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the Director of Department of Finance and Management on behalf of the Division of Support Services to associate the general budget reservation resulting from this ordinance with the Universal Term Contract Purchase Agreement for Motorola Radios and Motorola, Inc., as required for approval by City Council for an expenditure of more than $100,000. The Division of Support Services needs to purchase replacement handheld radios for police and fire, sworn personnel, and for the various recruit classes for both groups. An existing Universal Term Contract was established by the Purchasing Office for such purpose with Motorola, Inc. This ordinance will fund the purchase of new radios and accessories with Motorola, Inc. via the terms and conditions of the Universal Term Contract established with Motorola. Director Clark, do you have any additional details you'd like to share?
Yes, Safety Chair Remy, thank you. I would just add that in addition to our Axon body camera program, this will just be another upgrade for our officers so they have the latest and greatest technology, particularly as we move into designing a Zone 6, just to make sure that we have the latest and greatest equipment for our women and men. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Clark. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
And before I close out, I just want to thank Assistant City Attorney Sarah Pomeroy for her work in this process. We've been in contact all year. It's an ever-evolving process, but you've done nothing but to make it better and more thorough for the city. And so for that, I just want to acknowledge my appreciation and certainly look forward to working with you moving forward. Thank you very much. That is all I have this evening.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.